Good morning, everyone. It is December 19th at 9 a.m.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to be starting our study agency meeting. Thank you, Supervisor Rickman.
All
You have
right,
the
thank
floor.
you. All right, thank you. Good morning. Welcome to our meeting of the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control District Study Agency. We have board members participating in person at our offices in Fresno, Bakersfield, and our best office, Modesto. We will do our best to facilitate a smooth meeting with public participation via Zoom and webcast. Before we begin, here are some important guidelines and general instructions for the meeting. Please silence your other communication devices such as your cell phones. During the meeting, all public participants will be placed on mute by the host. Public members will not be able to mute or unmute manually. Audio from members of the public will be unmuted once they are recognized to make a public comment. And after each agenda item, the chair will announce public comment. The clerk will recognize any public attendee who has indicated they wish to speak. So with that being said, we'll move on to item number 2, the roll call. Can we get a roll call, please?
Good morning. Supervisor
Morning.
Chiesa,
I'm here.
Mr. Couch,
Sure.
Mr. McCauley, Mr. Mendez,
Here.
Mr. Pereira,
Here.
Ms. Shucklian,
Here.
Mr. Rickman,
Here.
Mr. Robinson.
Here.
Through the chair, you have a quorum.
All right, thank you. Supervisor Pereira, you want to lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Supervisor Pereira. We'll move on to item number 4, approval of a consent calendar. Anybody from the board wishing to pull or make comment? And no one, anybody from the public wishing to address the board on this item?
Are there any public comments in Bakersfield on the consent calendar for the study agency?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on the consent calendar for the study agency? Seeing none and none online.
All right, thank you. Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Move
Move to approve. The move. So we'll have a move by Supervisor Pereira and a second by Amy. Is that what it was? All right. Yeah, roll call, please.
Okay. Mr. Chiesa,
Aye.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez, Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Mr. Pereira,
Aye.
Ms. Shucklian,
Aye.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Move on to item number 5, which is public comment. So this is a time made available for comments for the public on matters within the board jurisdiction that are not on the agenda. So do we have any public comments?
Are there any public comments for the study agency in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Any public comments in Bakersfield for the study agency?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on the study agency? Seeing none and none online.
All right, thank you. So we'll close public comment, move on to item number 6, governing board member comments. Any members of the board have any comments? And no one? Move on to item number 7, other business. Do we have anything for that? I just want to comment that Vito looks very, very nice in his suit. I can see him here from here. Very nice tie, looking sharp. All right. With that, and nothing, we'll go ahead and adjourn the governing board study session. So there you go. Turn it back over to you. And thank you, everybody, and Merry Christmas.
Likewise, thank you. All right, now I'm going to call the governing board meeting of the San Joaquin Valley Air Pollution Control Board to order. The date is November 19th. The time is 9:04. We've already done the pledge. Do we have to do a roll call? We do a roll call again. All right.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Couch.
Here.
Ms. Escutia Brayton.
Here.
Ms. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. McCauley. Mr. Mendez.
Here.
Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Here.
Mr. Pereira.
Present.
Mr. Preciado.
Here.
Mr. Reyna.
I'm here.
Mr. Rickman.
Here.
Mr. Robinson.
Here.
Dr. Sheriffs.
Yes.
Ms. Shecklian.
Here.
Ms. Nguyen.
Here.
Mr. Chiesa.
I am here.
Through the chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you very much. And I'm just going to repeat a little portion of what Supervisor Rickman had just talked about. During the meeting, all public participants will be placed on mute by the host. Public members will not be able to mute or unmute manually. Audio for members of the public will be unmuted once they are recognized to speak during public comment. After each item, the chair will announce public comment. The clerk will recognize any public attendees who have indicated they wish to speak. So if everyone will show me a little bit of grace, I think that I want to take things a little bit out of order, if that's all right. I don't know that everyone wants to sit and listen to the end of the year address, although I love having an audience here. But I think I'd like to move item 5 and 6 up and do those first, if that is okay. The recognition of the calendar, kids calendar winners and the star recognition before then we'll go back.
Mr. Chair, if I could suggest you maybe also include 7.
Yes, 7.
Yes.
Also with 7.
Thank you. All right, so we are on the kids calendar item. Yes, this is going to be a very fun item. So excited to help tee up this item. So just a reminder, the Healthier Living Kids Calendar is a bilingual outreach piece that the board has supported and that we've had in place since 1998. So we've got a really long history in putting together a wonderful calendar that is just filled with creative images from students throughout the Valley representing their thoughts on our ongoing clean air efforts. And so we're always looking for ways to keep making this fresh and exciting. And the last couple of years, we've really done some really cool things with this to make it even more fun and more interesting and just a real showpiece and showcase for what the Valley is all about in terms of where our kids are and in the future really that they represent in terms of our region. So we actually this year there's a committee of staff that's picked the 14 winners that are being showcased in the calendar that we have available here today. We graphically designed this piece in-house and we print a number of these calendars, tens of thousands of them to share throughout the Valley. And so, of course, board members, anybody from the public who's interested in these, please let us know. And we're very happy to share those. We like to prioritize public spaces, libraries, senior centers, community centers, municipal buildings, city offices, county offices, again, to really just show, the Valley, what we're doing here, try to clean up the air, as spoken to by our kids here in the region. We also print and frame larger versions of these to display here in the 3 regional offices. And the winner of the calendar also gets a nicely framed piece, the cover winner, along with the new tradition that we started here a couple of years ago, which is to not only invite the winners here to the office, and you're going to see a number of these wonderful children here in the regions as well as on Zoom, but also offering scholarships. So the cover winner gets a $500 check as a scholarship, and then each of the winners outside of the cover winner also get a $100 scholarship. So it's just a really cool way, I think, for the board and the district here to recognize the efforts of these students and showcase the wonderful work that they do. So I'm going to have Jamie at this point introduce the winners and a little bit more about the calendars.
Thank you so much, board. It's going to be myself, and I'm going to get a little help from the regions. One thing I do want to note, we are very conscientious about children's privacy. So in some cases, you will not see or hear last names, grades, or schools. And that's really per the parent's request. We put into the calendar and we say publicly what we have the okay from the parents to say. First off, I want to recognize one winner who was not able to attend today. That's Madison, our January artist, who's a kindergartner from Agnes Baptist Elementary in Stanislaus County. With that, I'm now going to turn it over to Mylene Laxon, our office services manager in the North, who will introduce the winner in attendance in the Northern region. Mylene?
Hi, good morning, Governing Board. As I announce the winner, I would like for her to make her way to the podium with her parents. Here in Modesto, today we have Marcela Franco with her mom, Maribel Rodriguez, dad, George Franco, and little brother, Edgar Franco. Marcela is our April artist, 8th grader from Daniel J. Savage Middle School in Riverbank. I will now turn it over to Marlene Hill in the South to introduce the winners in attendance in the Southern region.
Hello, Governing Board members. As I announce the winners, I would like for them and their family to stand, please. In the South, we have several winners in attendance, starting with Adzine Baroun Garcia with her mom, Marlene Garcia, and sister, Dana. Adzine is our November artist, a 6th grader from McKee Middle School in Bakersfield.
Oh, no, everybody. Y'all come on this side.
Next, we have Carolina Montes with her grandmother, Hopi Terrazas. Carolina is our May artist,
Now, would you autograph mine?
a 12th grader from Golden Valley High School in Bakersfield.
Where would you like to sign it? You could sign it.
And Modesto, turn your mics off, please.
Thank you. And finally, let me zoom out and get you all. Larry. Thank you. And finally, Larry Lawson IV with mom, Maria Lawson, dad, Larry Lawson, little brothers, David and Kevin, grandpa, Hugo, grandma, Angelica, and grandma, Becky. Larry is our September artist, a 1st grader from Jefferson Academy in Tulare. Thank you, guys. I will now turn it back over to Jamie to introduce the winners attending via Zoom and in the Central region.
All right, now I'd like to introduce some of our winners attending via Zoom. And in just a minute, we're going to kick it over so that they'll get big on the screen here. Just a minute. We have Annalie Benavides' mom, Veronica, who is attending on her daughter's behalf. I'm not sure if Annalie actually made it or not because she's a 12th grader at Woodlake High School in Woodlake, and it's finals week. So she had finals today. Next up, we have Blake Solario with her mom, Erica Urrutia. Blake is his mom, Erica. Blake is our February artist, an 8th grader from John Muir Middle School in Corcoran. Next up, we have Camilla Benomar with her mom, Gloria Vargas, and little sister. Camilla is our March artist, a 4th grader in Merced County. Next up, we have Marlo Callback with mom, Lexi Callback. Marlo is our October artist, a 3rd grader from John R. Williams Elementary in Stockton. Then we have Santiago Medina with his teacher, Mrs. Mayfield, and his principal, Mrs. Calvillo. I want to apologize if I get names mispronounced. Santiago is our August artist, a 5th grader from Lee Richmond Elementary in Hanford. We also have Santiago Medina's mom, Sagrario Milan, on a separate Zoom. I really want to thank the teachers throughout the Valley who support our Healthier Living School efforts. And I'm going to ask that Santiago's teacher, Mrs. Mayfield, say just a few words so that system will pull them up on the big screen and we can hear from one of our teachers out in the world doing this great work. Mrs. Mayfield?
Hi, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you for this opportunity. This has been a few years we've been submitting applications to this, and it is just the Valley Air. I grew up here with asthma. I have a lot of my students that have asthma, and we really we want to teach the kids that, air pollution can be handled, and there's a lot of things we can do to help. And this has just been a great avenue to teach kids that. And I appreciate the opportunity. I'm so proud of Santiago for trying this for multiple years. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you to all of our Zoom attendees. Hold your applause. We've got one more group to do. Finally, I want to introduce our attendees in the central office. And as I announce your name, I'd like the students to come up and kind of stand right behind me so we can get them on the screen. We have Emily, who's here with her mom and dad, Lauren and Nick. Emily is our January 2026 artist. So we include next January in our calendar, just because, that's a transitional time for everyone. She's a fourth grader from Madera County. Then we have Kimora Little with her mom, Alina Hargate. Kimora is our December artist, a fourth grader from Mickey Cox Elementary in Clovis. Then we have Taramveer with Mr. and Mrs. Shergill. Taramveer is our June artist, a seventh grader from Quail Lake Environmental Charter School in Sanger. Finally, we have Juliana Perez Reina with her mom, Domitila Reina, her dad, Jorge Perez. Juliana is our July artist, an eighth grader from El Monte Middle School in Orosi. We want to thank all the teachers, parents, and students for submitting entries this year. And we want to thank the governing board for their support of this great program. Now, I would love for us to give a big round of applause to all of our winners. And finally, we're going to take a quick minute, and I would ask for Chair Chiesa and then the board members in all the regions to gather with the winners, and we're going to take a photo. It'll just take us a minute, and then we'll be on to the next item. Quality Inspector. Christina Lafour, Air Quality Engineer. And for 15 years of service, William Jones, Air Quality Engineer. All right. And moving to Modesto, Mylene will help me out there to get the camera over. We have for 15 years of service, Jonathan Yoshimura. Just pop over. Mylene? Mylene? I think she knows.
Yes, hi.
Oh, there you are. Okay. He's right there. All right, Jonathan, thank you. And moving to Fresno for 5 years of service. Preet Bath, Senior Air Quality Inspector. Priscilla De La Cerda, Personnel Technician. Vince Gibson, Senior Air Quality Instrument Specialist. Mohammed Muthana, Air Quality Engineer. And Sai Vang, Senior Air Quality Instrument Technician. For 10 years of service, Oshri Feldman, Supervising Accountant. Yolanda Sanchez, Accountant. And C. Tao, Air Quality Specialist. For 15 years of service, here in Fresno, David Lopez, Supervising Air Quality Specialist. For 20 years of service, Joe Aguayo, Air Quality Specialist. And Clay Bishop, Supervising Air Quality Specialist. Matthew Sagelski, Air Quality Specialist. And Lupe Reyes, Staff Technician. For 25 years of service, Brad Schwagel, Supervising Programmer Analyst. And that concludes our individuals.
So if anyone pays attention, that's 220 years of service honored with just a few of our employees, overall employees. Again, amazing that, but people generally stick around for management, good management. Pay is important to everyone, but truly the teamwork and collaboration is what has made us so successful. So we're very much appreciative of that. All right, now we're going to move on to item number 7.
Good, thank you. So going into a continuation from the last item and going into a little bit more detail, our STAR work culture is really aimed at creating an atmosphere where providing exceptional service, demonstrating effective teamwork, maintaining a positive attitude, and showing respect to others are all essential aspects of each of our jobs. The district reinforces our STAR performance and enhances our STAR work culture by recognizing our folks who fully embrace and exhibit these STAR attributes. So as part of our efforts this morning, we would like to formally acknowledge and recognize our 2024 STAR Employees of the Year for their outstanding performance and achievement. So if you're present, I ask that you would stand and remain standing until all the names are called. I will be starting in Modesto this morning for our, again, Stars of the Year. Miss Janet Torres, Air Quality Assistant for Compliance. Nick Pierce, our Permit Services Manager and Permits. Thank you. All right, moving to Bakersfield. Dave Bourne, our Supervising Air Quality Inspector and Compliance. And Charlie Carrillo, Air Quality Inspector and Compliance. Positioning that. Thank you. Moving to Fresno. Justin Downs, Senior Air Quality Inspector for Compliance. And for our Finance and Administrative Services, Tom Martinez, General Services Foreman. Katrina Rojas, Deputy Clerk to the Board. April Taylor, Accounting Technician. For Human Resources, Aaron Green, HR Technician. For our Information Technology Services Department,
Alexis Contreras, Programmer Analyst, James Lee, Supervising Network Systems Analyst, and Connor Sweezy, Network Systems Analyst. For our Outreach and Communications team, Anna Stone, Senior Bilingual Air Quality Education Representative. For Air Quality and Science, Daniel Bushman, Air Quality Instrument Technician, Arena Philippium, Air Quality Specialist, Chai Tao, Program Manager. For Planning, we have Molly Boyette, Senior Air Quality Specialist. For our Community Strategies and Resources team, Rocio Calderon, Air Quality Specialist. For Policy and Government Affairs, Patia Siong, Supervising Air Quality Specialist. For our Grants and Incentives team, David Lopez, Supervising Air Quality Specialist. Jeff Perkins, Air Quality Specialist. Catherine Tao, Senior Air Quality Specialist. And for our Staff Technician Team Award, Christina Padilla, Lupi Reyes, and Misa Velasco. For our Permit Services team, we have Zeffirino Elman, Air Quality Engineer, Ramon Norman, Senior Air Quality Engineer, and Kim Smith, Air Quality Specialist. Whew, that is our 2024 Employees of the Year. Congratulations to all of you and thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here.
So thank you very much. And as my Christmas gift to all the employees, you don't have to sit here and listen to me.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it. Congratulations, Katrina. You have the same honor? Do I have the same honor?
We are efficient. That's one of the reasons why we're letting this go. So we
Yes.
actually need people that work.
Always nice to see the support of the rest of the employees too. All right, so now we're going to move backwards. We're going to go back to item number 3, which is just an end of the year address by myself, just to give a little bit of an update. And I'm going to do it in written form, and I may put my glasses on. I'm going to try and do it without my glasses. And so bear with me. So as my second year of the chair of the Valley Air District this year is unprecedented. The collaboration is vital to advancing our clean air goals. The district prides itself on providing excellent customer service, and this past year, the Valley continued to provide critical services in the area of permitting compliance assistance, grant funding assistance, public outreach and education, planning, air monitoring, and more. Additionally, we work hard to successfully implement numerous innovative air quality measures this past year, such as our award-winning residential wood smoke reduction program, award-winning wildfire prevention and response strategies, industrial emission control strategies, and ongoing initiatives with Valley Agriculture to transition to new technologies and away from practices such as open burning. Furthermore, the district continues to roll out a wide range of incentive programs supporting local communities, public agencies, agriculture, and businesses. Through strong advocacy, we've secured significant state and federal funding, providing over $1.1 billion with a B in clean air investments this year alone, $493 million in grants matched by over $643 million from private sector, leading to a reduction of over 26,400 tons of air pollution. These major incentive-based programs rely on continued Valley advocacy and partnership with stakeholders. This past year, we successfully secured an additional $160 million in clean air funding, which will be vital for improving the air quality in the years to come. In addition, the district has worked more closely than ever with our communities, primarily through the AB 617 and other communities-focused initiatives. Thanks to these efforts, air quality in the Valley is improving, with air quality levels among the cleanest in our region's history. For example, I'm happy to report that we are back on track to meet the 15 microgram PM 2.5 standard this year, a significant milestone in meeting federal air quality goals. While our air quality is cleaner than ever, we still face significant challenges and our work continues. In the year ahead, we must continue to strengthen partnerships at all levels, the residents, businesses, community advocates, and stakeholders to push forward with new clean air initiatives. There is much work ahead, and I want to thank this phenomenal board for their camaraderie, dedication, and unwavering commitment to this important task. It has been rewarding to see our newer board members transition so quickly, much quicker than I was able to, and already make meaningful progress. With this continued support of the board and Samir's strong leadership and talented staff, of which we just saw today, I'm so proud of the staff also. I'm confident we will maintain our tradition of excellent public service in the coming years. In closing, I just want to wish everyone a joyful holiday season, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you.
You did it without bionic eyes. That's
Yeah.
pretty good.
All right. That was awkward. It's always awkward when you just talk. Now we're going to move on to item 4, which is the election of officers. And I'm going to turn it over to Samir for a
Yeah, thank
report.
you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick introduction here on the item. There is a board officer selection policy that your board has adopted a number of years ago, and that policy involves the appointment of a subcommittee, an ad hoc subcommittee, to entertain nominations and make recommendations to the larger board. Part of that process, there are some criteria in that policy involving taking a look at the priorities in the coming year, thinking about rotation in terms of location of the board members in those roles, and having a preference for that rotating. All these different factors were considered in that subcommittee conversation. So in front of you today are the nominations that are provided to the larger board here for consideration, which are to appoint Supervisor Amy Shuklian to serve as chair for 2025, and for Supervisor Bobby McCauley to serve as vice chair for 2025. These are one-year roles, and basically, this is the last meeting with you as chair, Mr. Chair, with the new roles being effective in January. So with that, I'll turn it back to you, Mr. Chair, and the board for discussion and action on that.
Okay. Anyone from the nominating committee want to make the motion? Okay.
So moved.
We can take them together, right? The slate.
A unanimous ballot.
Okay. And before we go to a roll call vote, if you just give me 1 second, I want to thank my vice chair, Deborah Lewis, who's my wing person for the last 2 years. I know you had to run a meeting for me. I appreciate all you've done as my vice chair. It's always wonderful to have someone you can count on. So thank you very much. All right. So we'll go to the voice vote.
Go to the public comments first.
Oh, yeah. Public comment.
Are there any public comments on this item in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any public comments in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Are there any public comments on this item in Fresno?
Item number 9.
No, that's coming up next. All right.
Okay.
No, that's all right. Next one.
Seeing none in person or online.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second.
Who was the second? I'm sorry.
It was Buddy. right?
No, it was,
Laura?
no,
No, that made the motion. Dr. Chair's made the motion.
yeah.
Mr.
It
Chair,
was
there
Rick
is
Right
one.
here, when?
I'll go win.
Yeah,
second. Okay, win. Okay, so now I'm going to go to you, member Scutia Braden.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to thank very much Chair Chiesa and Vice Chair Lewis for your leadership and guidance and just your amazing professionalism in leading this organization and this board. You've done a wonderful job and I've enjoyed working alongside you. So thank you very much. And congratulations, Chair Amy Chucklin. Look forward to your guidance and your leadership moving forward, as well as our new Vice Chair, Board Member Macaulay. So just looking forward to.
Yet, so.
Well, it's I can tell you what the future has in store for you, but looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind comments. Okay, let's go to a roll call vote.
Okay. Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Mrs. Scutia Brayton,
Absolutely.
Miss Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Pereira,
I vote aye.
Mr. Preciado,
Yes.
Mr. Reyna,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs,
Yes.
Ms. Shucklian,
Yes.
Ms. Wynn,
Yes.
Mr. Chiesa.
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
I just,
Yes,
yeah,
you-
thank you all for your support, and I look forward. I know I'm following in some the footsteps of some big shoes with Chair Chiesa, but it's been a good 2 years. So thank you for your leadership, and I look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, now we're going to move on to the public comment period. Item number 9, I have an opportunity for anyone to speak on any item that's not on today's posted agenda.
Excuse me, Chair. Number 8, we have the consent calendar.
All right, that's okay.
Janet,
Would you like me to take over now? No.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just learning this job. I need another 2 years to be actually able to follow. Okay, the consent calendar.
Second chances.
I can't believe consent calendars are items 21 through 31, routine in nature and are usually approved by a single vote. We do go out to public comment. Would any member like to pull any item, comment on any item? Seeing none, we'll go out to public comment.
Are there any public comments on the consent calendar, item number 8 in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any public comments on this item in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Any members of the public in Fresno would like to comment on the consent calendar, item 8? Seeing none and none online.
We have a motion to approve.
Second.
And a second. Call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Mrs. Scutia Brayton,
Aye.
Miss Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Mendez.
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Pereira,
Aye.
Mr. Preciado,
Yes.
Mr. Reyna,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs,
Yes.
Ms. Shucklian,
Aye.
Ms. Wynn,
Yes.
Mr. Chiesa.
Yes.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Thank you very much. Now on to item 9, opportunity to speak on any item that's not on today's posted agenda. I'll repeat myself. Thank you very much.
Looks like we have a commenter coming up in Fresno.
Good morning, Chair Chiesa, board members and staff. The red light is on. Okay. Climate change. 2024 has been reported as the hottest year on record worldwide. According to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, changing current agricultural practices is the key to addressing and solving global climate change. The United Nations and supranational organizations like the European Union have all addressed the need to create a sustainable agricultural system in order to prevent massive ecological devastation and global food shortages. Climate change is quickly emerging as a major threat to agricultural production, both globally as well as in the United States. Last summer's drought in Texas, which some experts believe will continue until next summer, has already devastated farms across the state. Similar droughts have struck across the South and Southwest, worrying many farmers who fear that this may be the new climatological norm. Farmers can ameliorate some of the dangers posed by climate change, UN officials believe. According to Jose Graciano da Silva, the new head of the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization, agriculture contributes 30% of the greenhouse gases that cause global warming, and we must raise the awareness of our farmers. Agriculture is not just part of the problem, he also stated, it's also part of the solution to the environment issue. It can contribute a lot to the planet's sustainable development by finding techniques less harmful to the environment, by helping with clean energy and with a better redistribution of production. Thank you. And I would like to thank you for your fine leadership, Chair Chiesa. And I would like to also say, in the time I have left, the Christmas tree in the lobby is spectacular. And I understand it was done by people here. It looks professional. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Janet.
Are there any other members of the public in Fresno? Seeing one come up.
Good morning, Manuel Cunha, President East Bay Farmers League. First, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, thank you for all your dedication and work, Vito, for the last of being part of this entire board. Vice Chair Lewis, thank you for everything you've done as a councilwoman up in Los Banos, that entire area, Dallas Palace, that whole area. You've done a great job, and so thank you. Again, to the entire staff, Samir, all of the team, from Morgan, Shiraz, Tom, Todd. Let's see, who else did I forget? Oh, yes, I have to pay special attention to a young man that has been involved, Mr. Chairman, continuously, but somehow we have forgot him. And we don't want him to not think we're not watching him, but he has done a tremendous job. And I want him to stand because it's important. This young man is by the name of Brian Dodd. Is he here? Is Brian here? Oh my God, yes. Brian, hey, thank you for everything you've done. Just because we don't mention your name, we're not watching, okay? But you've done a great job with your entire staff and everybody. So thank you. Samir, the entire team, all of the staff. Yes, I will agree. The Christmas tree by the staff have done a great job. It looks first class. I'm glad to see the Christmas spirit and all of that. But again, Amy, welcomed as the new chair. And we look forward to working with all of you. I think it's been great. But Samir, entire staff and everybody for believing in my industry, believing in our rural communities, the farm workers, and caring. So again, thank you very, very much, Brian. But again, thank you, young man. Okay. Okay, this way, Samir, we're safe now. We're safe. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Manuel.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? Seeing none. Any public comment in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any public comment in Modesto?
No public comment in Modesto.
Okay, seeing no further comments and none online.
All right, thank you very much. We're going to close the public comment period. We're going to move on to item 10, which is a report from the district Citizen Advisory Committee on the activities. Emmanuel.
Yeah, in your packet, again, Manuel Cunha, a member of the Citizens Advisory Committee. The chair could not be part of it today to present, so he asked for volunteers. So I volunteered to do your report. In your packet, you have the information. Much discussion was talked about from the study session that went on the 13th and 14th in Visalia. Well done, ladies, putting that on, the two and everybody, the entire staff. It just went really good. Number two item was the new 2.5, but the 97 plan, finally allowing an extension for that. I can't believe that we're still working on the 97 plan. It just doesn't make any sense sometimes. But the third item was the open burn presentation that was presented to the board at the study agency, was presented to the CAC. Well done. The wildfire agencies working with the district in concert with the state and the federal government. So we do have the proper control of burns and all of that. So the staff did a great job with the agencies. 617, the various groups that communities that are in 617 and how some of the projects are prevailing and working and people communicating, I think, which is great. So again, that's in your board packet. And the last item is that the chair through with the district with ARB, the California Resources Board, is that we will be putting in writing when we need a specific department to present the facts or the issues of the regulations that they adopt. So that will be in writing. So that way there's no miscommunications in Sacramento. And that will be forwarded to the chair as well as to Mr. or Dr. Steve Cliff. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer. But again, I want to thank the CAC members as well as the staff providing the services for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Manuel. Any questions for Manuel? Seeing none, thank you. Again. Okay, we're going to move on to item 11. Receive the Government Finance Officers Association Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. Samir.
I'll ask Mario Orozco, our relatively new Director of Administrative Services, to join me on this one. Just wanted to quickly mention just how proud we are of the staff that do work really hard to have strong fiscal accountability, transparency. This is something that's critically important to the board. I want to thank the board for always supporting these efforts. So once again, we're happy to present here at this board meeting the Financial Reporting Award that Mario will now tell you a little bit more about. So I just want to appreciate the board for all your leadership in this area. Go ahead.
Mario Orozco, Director of Finance and Administrative Services. Good morning, Chair and members of the board. It is my pleasure to address you today and to begin providing some context regarding the Government Finance Officers Association, or GFOA. GFOA is an internationally recognized organization that offers guidance and support to local and state government, budget, and finance professionals throughout the United States and Canada. I'm honored to share some exciting news with you. Once again, the district has been awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and it has been awarded for the district's annual comprehensive financial report for fiscal year 2022-2023. Notably, this marks the 11th consecutive year the district has received this award. This achievement reflects significant recognition from an expert independent authority of your board's commitment to meeting the highest principles of governmental reporting and transparency to the public and excellence in exercising fiscal responsibilities. The district ACFR is prepared annually, and it has consistently received high marks by independent auditors in the past. To earn the latest award, the ACFR was judged by an impartial panel as meeting the high standards of the GFOA program. These standards include demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure to clearly communicate the district's financial story and motivate members of the public to read the ACFR. Congratulations to your board for this remarkable achievement. This recognition reflects your unwavering commitment to excellence, transparency, and public accountability. Thank you for your leadership and support.
Mr. Chair, just wanted to acknowledge Mario and his team that worked really hard throughout the year to make sure we get to this point. See Ryan Kincaid there and a couple of the wonderful staff supervisors from Oshri and Matt from that department. Just want to acknowledge all the hard work by them and their team to get us to this point. And with that, Mr. Chair, just turn it back to you on the board.
And I want to acknowledge on behalf of the board, we didn't do any of that work. So Mario, we are so appreciative of you and your team, again, taking care of us, and we continue to show that we're doing the right thing through the independent audits and board oversight, but it's really your work. Any comments from the board?
Yeah, just one
Yep.
real quick. We ride on the shoulders of great people that make us look really good. And you're one of them, along with the whole management team here.
Thank you.
Agreed. Anyone else? All right, go out to the public.
Are there any public comments on this item in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any public comment in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on this item? Seeing none and none online.
All right, and this is, we just received the report. There's no action required. Thank you again, Mario. On to item 12, update on AB 617 implementation and approve the expansion of programs benefiting Valley communities. Jessica.
Excellent. Hello, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm Jessica Olson, the Director of Community Strategies and Resources. And I'm here to talk about a couple of things related to AB 617. But first, and really just it's my honor to really update you on another great year of implementing the Assembly Bill 617 or Community Air Protection Program. Lost my slides here. All right, there we go. So just as a brief reminder, the Community Air Protection Program has air districts across the state select, or at least nominate, and then CARB selects communities. These are disadvantaged communities, underserved communities, to receive focused clean air resources. And here in the Valley, since 2018, there have been 4 communities selected. That's South Central Fresno, Shafter, Stockton, and Arvin-Lamont. And in each of these communities, we've worked with local businesses, residents, advocates, agency partners, and other stakeholders to develop what we call community emissions reduction programs, or CERPs. We've also developed community air monitoring plans, or CAMPs. And each one of these are meant to reduce and mitigate the impacts of air pollution and also monitor and track the progress that we've been able to make. And so today I'm here before you to talk about our annual progress report. So what have we done since the last time we spoke about this, at least in this detail, a year ago? The California Air Resources Board actually publishes something that they call a blueprint, and they've actually recently updated this blueprint. And this serves as the guidance document for districts and community members alike to work together to implement the program. The blueprint outlines that we are required to provide an annual update on CERP measure progress and post it to our public site by October 1st every year. We actually meet and exceed that requirement. Each month we post progress, both in English and in Spanish for all 4 of our communities. But we, of course, annually come to you all to highlight some big events that we've been able to hold and talk about just kind of outreach and progress that we've made together a little differently than just CERP measure progress. The original draft copies of the report that's before you today have been discussed with each community. And then today we're here to present to your board and then pass the annual reports officially onto CARB, which will be included in their big update that they provide to their board in the summertime. So just briefly, I'm going to highlight, but I actually am really excited to show you our annual report this time. But I'm going to highlight a couple of major things that we've been able to accomplish. We've had tree planting efforts that have kicked off actually in all 4 communities. Shafter, Fresno, and Stockton are pretty far along in their process, but even Arvin-Lamont has opened a request for proposals to find partners to work on tree planting projects, that's urban greening and vegetative barriers projects. All 4 communities have held car replacement workshops, various car replacement workshops, to get folks into cleaner vehicles. And we'll talk a little bit about how successful that's been and how much, how many more resources we really need for that program. We've exchanged over, and this is a number I had to check a million times, 1,100 lawnmowers just this year alone at events across the Valley in these 4 communities. And we definitely have some coming up here as well. And those are just great events, not only to exchange old gas-powered lawnmowers for electric, but also just to, conduct outreach in the community. And then something that's so important to us, we've conducted a lot of back-to-school outreach this year. And this wasn't just in the CERP communities. This is something we've been doing and really focusing on, particularly this year, across all the disadvantaged communities in the Valley. What I'm most excited about, though, and I'm actually, as I'm talking, going to have Seth, if you can transition us, we have a new interactive format for our annual report this year. We worked really closely, actually, with our IT team and just here across a lot of different teams here at the district to incorporate our annual report in an Esri GIS, which is a Geographic Information Systems tool. And so really what that means is that we have this online interactive format for our report that allows us to upload information spatially, meaning we can like map information, but also just in a format that has a lot more media. So it's a little bit easier for folks to digest. So I'm just going to really briefly show you through it. It's in a combined report. So here you can see all of the reports for all of the communities. I'm not going to do it right now, but you can click, and everything that I'm showing you right now is also available in Spanish. And we kind of give a highlight of the history of what 617 is. It's so interactive that you can go and click off to our individual websites that we've created for each of the communities. And you can also sort of just take a tour of the Valley and understand what we've been able to accomplish. Once you click here on any one of these, it'll actually zoom you into the individual communities. You can keep scrolling and take a tour of what we've been able to do, or you can click here and jump to the annual report for each community. We're so excited because this is just such a better way to show more pictures, more media. And in this case, as you'll see as I scroll really briefly through the Stockton example, give you a tour of what we've been able to do. So if you look here, you'll see this is a map of the Stockton community. And as I scroll through, and you learn in this case about our lawnmower exchange event, once you get to the next one, you hop over to the next part of the community. So in this case, we moved over here to the Port of Stockton. This is where we held a really amazing interactive meeting with community members in partnership with the port, with local businesses, with local advocates, and of course, residents. And you can click through and see the tour we were able to take with the Port of Stockton director, decisions we were able to make with community members at this event. And again, as you keep scrolling, you'll kind of just get a sense of all of the different cool things we've been able to do in the community, again, in a much more interactive way, and in a way we're just really proud to show community members off. There's so many more pictures of community members interacting with us. So of course, as you scroll down, you'll also, of course, like I mentioned, we have our SERP tracker. We're very proud of it and very appreciative of the ability to continue to update folks on SERP measure progress. And then every year we have our annual enforcement report. We have a report on ongoing community air monitoring, where we get to track all of the great progress we've made in improving the air quality. So of course, I'm not going to scroll through everything. I would love for you, if you haven't already had a chance to scroll through this and just kind of see all of the progress that not only are we proud to present to you, but we know communities are proud to present to their neighbors or other folks, just to talk about the work that they've been able to do with us this year. So Seth, if you can go back to the slides. Awesome. And so really I'll just click us through. Perfect. So we're kind of actually entering a new phase of AB 617. So I mentioned all of the communities. Shafter and Fresno were selected in 2018. They had their SERPs adopted by CARB in 2020, and the SERPs are intended per the blueprint to be 5-year plans. And so in 2025, February 25, so just 2 months from now, we're actually coming up on those 5 years. And so we've been working really closely with the community members, really closely with CARB to sort of understand the next steps, to try to understand kind of how to transition from the sort of more intense SERP implementation process we've been doing to more kind of maintenance and ongoing work on maybe some of the SERP measures we still want to work on and maybe still have a lot of need for in the community. So we plan to move to quarterly meetings for Fresno and Shafter. And we also plan to continue, it's something we've already been doing and we will have certainly capacity to do, apply lessons learned from those communities and really continue to expand engagement efforts beyond the 4 communities that have been selected. So in accordance with that, some of the work we also need to do to make sure that that transition is smooth is to continually look at the SERP measures, see which ones are working, what funding maybe is needed for measures that have run out of funding, and then also reassess, as we've come to your board many times, maybe measures that aren't moving forward and how we can do that. So that's really the next kind of phase of this presentation, is talking about reallocation. So the first one I'm bringing to you today is reallocating funding to the low dust nut harvesters in Shafter. This is a source of concern that is really highly ranked for all of the community members and business members, even in the Shafter community. The allocation in the SERP was $2.5 million, and we replaced 25 harvesters actually a few years ago with all of that funding. So that funding has ran out a while ago. And we've been able to reduce over 170 tons of emissions. And that's actually mostly PM 2.5, direct PM 2.5. So it's a really important measure to community members. Over the past several years, we've worked really closely with community members on all of our measures. And one of those in particular was actually a truck replacement measure. There was $4 million in the SERP. We've been working really closely with local businesses, truck owners and operators, other stakeholders to try to understand how we can get folks to take advantage of those voluntary incentives. And for a variety of reasons, economic reasons, the SERP did span a lot of the COVID years, certainly truck regulation and kind of compliance issues that maybe made the funding not so cost effective. It was really difficult for us to find folks to take advantage of this. And at the same time, we knew that we had a lot of folks still interested in low dust nut harvester measures. So in October, we worked with the community steering committee and they unanimously supported shifting $2 million from that heavy duty truck measure to the harvester measure. And that's really important because one, that's going to reduce an estimated almost 70 tons additional emissions reductions. And that's actually about twice as impactful as we would have had we just used that $2 million on truck replacement projects. So we are getting more emissions reductions for that. And community members worked with us on kind of coming up with an outreach plan that would still focus a lot of our outreach efforts closer to the Shafter La Colonia community. And then as we sort of exhausted those efforts, then start to look out, it's a pretty large boundary, and then start to look out maybe at some of the other growers in the area. And then as always, we would look to prioritize outreach to smaller growers in the community with this measure. The next measure, funding reallocation, we're going to shift over to talk a little bit about Fresno. I mentioned earlier just how well the vehicle replacement measures have been going. We've actually come to your board in different capacities for various communities about adding more funding to these measures because they are so important to community members. They focus on the residents and they do get dirty vehicles, of course, off the road. The current allocation in the South Central Fresno SERP is $4.6 million. The original $1.6 million, that funding is committed. Folks are already starting to get those vehicles delivered. And so we're actually proposing to reallocate up to, I know this sounds like a very specific number, but essentially the remaining amount, it's about $4.6 million from our public fleet vehicles measure to this. And I'll explain a little bit about that up to amount and why that's important. So this would essentially allow us to add more funding to the vehicle replacement measure while still continuing to do outreach for the public fleet vehicle measure. As a reminder, that measure originally actually had $8 million, which is a pretty significant amount. And that is for public fleets that could be, of course, cities, counties, municipalities, school districts to purchase new vehicles. And that can actually even include like golf carts that they use maybe around campus. And we've been working with all of those kind of various different stakeholders that I just mentioned. And we have had 27 different public fleet vehicles purchased through this program through a lot of different agencies, but we really aren't seeing the progress that we'd like to see for spending up to now the remaining $4.6 million. And because the SERPs, we are kind of going to continue to fund, but because this funding has statutory deadlines and because we're working to get emissions reductions as quickly as possible, we're trying to look to find a balance of funding measures that are going really, really well, while still allowing us to see and continue outreach and see if there are still folks interested. So we'll continue to do outreach, and if there are interested public fleets, we'll continue to fund those while still opening up the funding for the vehicle replacement measures for residents. And then the last reallocation that I'll talk about is another one for South Central Fresno, and this is to fund urban greening. So the current allocation in the SERP is $1 million. That funding is under contract with Tree Fresno. They've been such great partners. They work really, really well with the community members, with the EJ advocates, with the city of Fresno. And we are proposing to reallocate an additional $1.2 million to this measure to plant trees throughout the community. So this, similar to what I just talked about with the truck replacement measure, this is to come from the under fire charbroiler technology measure. This is another measure that we've done a lot of outreach. We worked with a lot of folks and we aren't seeing progress. And that's kind of for similar issues. It's in some cases a feasibility issue. These are restaurants that maybe already exist in the feasibility of redoing their whole restaurant infrastructure to install a technology that maybe they're not comfortable with, just hasn't allowed us to find people volunteering to take advantage of this funding. And so we know it's important for us, again, to spend the funding in a timely fashion. And Tree Fresno has been such a great partner and already partnered with us on a couple of projects. And this is a high priority measure for community members. So again, they voted unanimously to support shifting this funding to the measure. and allowing us to get more tree planting projects done in the community. So if approved, we would actually work directly with the CSC and Tree Fresno to continue to prioritize outreach in the locations throughout the community for additional projects. And then finally, this isn't actually a funding reallocation. This is a proposal to expand eligibility of one of our measures that actually spans 3 of our 4 communities. And this is our residential air filtration measure. Each one of the communities has $1 million each. And in each one of them, there's kind of various progress, as you can see. But we actually haven't even spent, even though it's been a year of intense outreach, we haven't even spent 50% of the funding in any of the communities. And certainly in Shafter and in Stockton, we still have a lot of funding left. That's something we want to continue to do, a lot of outreach. It's definitely a high touch program where we work directly one-on-one with residents to get folks the free air filtration units and a replacement filter. However, we have heard directly from community members that they are very interested in expanding the eligibility to include daycare and elderly care facilities. And we actually have the room to do that. The CARB funding guidelines allow for us to fund those. So it's not a new project plan. We don't have to go to CARB to ask for approval to do this. This is just something that we are coming to your board to see if we can expand our existing program to just essentially follow the funding guidelines, which allow us to cover 100% of the cost for the HEPA grade standalone air purifier units for these types of facilities. So again, upon approval, we would expand eligibility of these in the SERP communities as discussed and supported by the CSCs. So with that, I know there was a lot of various kind of things all over the place, but the recommendations are to receive the progress report, approve the reallocations and enhancements, as I mentioned, and then of course, authorize board chair and APCO to enter necessary agreements. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Jessica? Yeah, Member Wynn.
Those HEPA filters for daycares and elderly care, do they have to are there income requirements or anything, or it can just be that they're taking care of children?
Great question. Not income requirements. Anything that's within the boundaries within those areas is the location requirement. And that's true actually for the residential as well. It is not an income requirement.
Thank you.
All right, Member Robinson.
So Jessica, first of all, thank you for the quest for efficiency. I'm not used to seeing that in government. Next, so is it both for private and public in terms of the daycare and the HEPA filters?
That's a great question. Yes, it is for private and public. And just a little bit more background there, we do have a school air filtration program, but because of the cap requirements, that only allows us to fund K through 12. And so this will allow us to do kind of expand it a little bit, and private and public would be included.
Thank you. Member Pereira.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is awesome. You know, I really appreciate your efforts. One concern is in the tree planting. I've noticed maybe in my area that people plant trees, like one jurisdiction planted sycamore trees underneath power lines. And so now 15 years later, there's been a lot of money pruning sycamore trees. So is there a consideration, or you're shaking your head, so what do you got?
Yeah, so there are kind of a slew of really detailed requirements, but we also, I think that's kind of the benefit of us putting out a request for proposals and partnering with really well-established tree planting organizations like Tree Fresno. I'm pointing behind me. This is Mona. She's with Tree Fresno. And so that's a good reminder. And that's actually one of the reasons why in the request for proposals, we do carefully outline and then also review kind of locations, but then also all of the requirements, not only just like locations, power lines, but also all of the requirements for maintenance and, is there planning for irrigation? All of that is taken care of in that review.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Thank you so much. I think, so I have three questions. One, in terms of the reductions piece, just on the AB 617 as a whole, where do you see the biggest sort of emission reductions coming from? Because we've done a lot of shifting from the original SERPs, right, to where we are now. So it's hard for me to just kind of go back to the originals and track. But where do you see the most emission, as things have shifted today? Where are they coming from?
That's a great question. I think the answer is a little different because each community is different. So in Shafter, for example, most of the emissions reductions come from the ag-related measures. So much of the funding and the reduction is really targeted at sort of those heavy-duty replacements. So in Shafter, it is tractors, it is low dust harvesters. In some of the other communities, it's a little bit different. It's maybe more related to kind of like the lighter duty vehicles. So that's replacing the cars. And a lot of it, to be honest, is shifting a little bit toward more of the mitigation. So the tree planting, the vegetative barriers, which we do get reductions from, as well as the air filtration devices.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, it's helpful to know, even, with the tree planting, as we move forward, there will be a secondary benefit in ozone that will be helpful as well. Hopefully, get enough of those projects going, right? I also, in terms of the air filtration units, two questions on that piece. Can you give any insight in terms of, our other programs that are not 617 have been very impacted, and then these seem to not be. So you talk about the differences, and then also just like a really small question, second question to that is, for the daycare centers and the senior centers, will you be giving the same units, or is there bigger units that you have to look into for those, and how will you kind of determine that? Because it's also good for us to be stepping into that. I know you've done some of that with the wildfire work, but I also, think it's important technology for the district to make known when we're adopting, those bigger units, which ones are working, which ones work well, and all that for other people to know.
Great question. To Dr. Pacheco-Warner's point, the Valley-wide program is impacted, and it's just a matter of the size of area that we're able to do that outreach in. So the $1 million in a pretty small area for each one of these is just, it's not that they're not moving. Actually, I think percentage-wise per capita, we're actually getting more, and we have already gotten more into these communities. We just have a lot of units available for a very small area. And so I think that's why, just like perception-wise, it looks like it's not moving as well as the Valley-wide program. Per the daycare and senior care centers, we are looking into providing, just kind of based on the size of the center or the number of rooms they have, providing and partnering with our air purifier device distributor for different size units depending on the needs.
Thank you. And I'm going to be bragging to the other cardboard members about your report being better than their report.
Love it. All right, Vice Chair Lewis.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. You kind of made reference to getting close to the end of the 5-year commitment on the 617 with some communities, and trying to work with them to move a little bit faster to meet the commitment. So once the 5-year commitment is up, does it automatically renew, or do they have to reapply, or does it cease?
That's a great question. One thing that I mentioned, and I'll just kind of get a little bit more detail on, is we're working with CARB to sort of understand a little bit of like what that next 5 years looks like. It really is some guidance we're looking to the state for. But one of the things that's pretty clear in the blueprint that they give us, it's not that the 5 years means we are done and we never go into that community again. It's sort of why we're transitioning to more maintenance mode, and why we're still working on reallocating funds and getting emissions reductions and really finalizing all the commitments that we made to that community. As we move forward, we're definitely looking to the state for guidance on how they see the future of 617. And I think kind of what we've heard and seen across the board already the past couple of years is that they are really looking to kind of expand it to more communities across the state and not really do this selection, community by community process. And that's kind of the guidance that we've gotten from them, and really the direction it seems to be going.
Okay, so that may partially answer my next question, which may be a little bit convoluted. So let me see if I can make this clear. I know outside of Stockton, most of the 617 communities are Fresno and going deeper into the southern part of our valley. But we have other smaller communities within the San Joaquin Valley who may or may not know about the 617 program. And so my question is, how can the district, with the mechanisms of measuring air in various places, reach out to these other communities who may not know what you offer and get them into 617 programs?
I'm going to start on the response to that, and then Jess, she directs that program along with Jamie can add more to it. And I'll go back to our November board meeting where we had a dedicated item just to talk about that specific issue, because I want to be very clear about the purpose of this item. And it's really focused on these reports for these 4 communities and some shifting in funds that essentially make sure that funding stays in those communities, as the board had promised with the programs that were adopted by this board. But there's a bigger question, a very good question that you raise, which is really where I see the 617 program taking the lessons that are learned there, but also other lessons that we've learned and all the great input that you've had. For example, you do a lot of community level outreach. We benefited from that input. There's a broader community level engagement that's really the focus right now, right? So we're focusing on these communities, and we will continue to focus on them. I think the meetings will continue. We're mapping that out right now. We're actually the work that we're doing through Jess's team in those communities is actually informing the state on how you go about, and you got the first 5 years, and here we are, basically continuing to support the communities, but we're also taking all the lessons learned and broadening them out to all the other communities. And we had a really good discussion in November about that. There were some ideas that were raised. We highlighted all the great work that our team does to get into those communities. It's everything from grassroots, media to events to one of the things that Jess's team has been doing, which has been really great to see, is partnering with local community organizations all throughout the valley. So not just in these 4 communities, we're building relationships, and a lot of those relationships, by the way, have come from board members who you individually interface often with. Different organizations civic organizations that are interested in air quality. Anybody who's interested in the conversation, who wants to promote the programs, who has ideas, or maybe lets us know what their concerns and needs are. The community engagement effort is much broader than these 4 communities. As you know, we've done a lot of work in the Merced County area and your specific city. So just want to highlight that it's a very good point that you're raising, and really that is the broader commitment that we have. A lot of these programs, for example, that we piloted in these communities, we actually broadened out to valley-wide programs, and you hear about those on a really regular basis. Jessica, do you have anything to add to that?
What Samir said, that's exactly right. Thank you.
So with that being said, under your 617 program, you have these events where you exchange lawnmowers out that are combustion for battery operated. Can those same programs be administered in smaller communities who are not 617?
Yes, the short answer is yes. And it's absolutely something that we're looking at. I'll give you an example. The Tuna and Tuna program that I know you've actually been to a number of those events. Those are programs that are just one opportunity where we can look at, the lawnmower, and that's not just strictly, as you know.
Or maybe combining,
exactly,
an event
right.
like
Yes.
that, since,
Yes.
those communities may not hear about that. And it's like, oh yeah, this is going to happen 2 days later. I'll bring my
Correct.
lawnmower in.
And what you've seen, and this is actually just a wonderful discussion, because it really gets to the heart of, the issue that you've raised, which is that, and you may recall, the board authorized us to pilot through working with Valley Can, who also does a very good job in running the vehicle replacement program. They're actually piloting the lawnmower exchange event concept and successfully piloting it. So some of the numbers that you just saw are actually based on that, which we hope to broaden out actually to valley-wide, right? So I think that's part of what Jessica is trying to say, is that we have a lot of lessons that we're actually, the goal here is to actually bring these resources, and there's already there's a lot going on at community level beyond these communities. As you know, we talk about that at pretty much every board meeting, but we want to continue to ramp that up as we transition and take all those great pilots that we did in these communities to valley-wide if we can.
And thank you for the very good report.
Thank you. Dr. Sherris?
Thank you, and thank you, Vice Chair Lewis, for your helping us think forward, because I think this board and this district have really been remarkable. Reflecting back on the start of 617 and having myself gone to a meeting in Monterey for CAPCOA where 617 was being introduced. This was when I was on the ARB board. And air districts, I think I can use the word, were terrified this was not the way districts were used to doing business. They weren't sure how CARB was going to support this. It seemed like another big mandate. And this board and this district stepped up and have really made it work in remarkable ways. And it's really benefited all of the work we do in terms of the community engagement. And so I think this board is committed to how do we keep this going in the future? Because it's, I'll say it's not obvious, or maybe it's obvious, there's not going to be the kind of funding in the future. So how do we continue to sustain it, get it out to the other communities that are already interested and ones that don't know about it, but could clearly benefit from it? Because 617, it's decreased pollutants, increased community engagement, capacity building in these communities that we hope will sustain the work that they're doing. One question I have in terms, and this is kind of a detail, but okay, annual report. What do we do about branding? Because I think branding is a helpful and important piece of getting the message out and helping others connect. And by branding, I'm talking about, well, here's where the money's coming from. This is who's helping coordinate, collaborate, develop, so that people are looking to the district for ideas, for carrying this forward, for tapping into the opportunities. How do people know where this is coming from?
No, that's such a great question. And I think couple of things, maybe I'll just talk about the partnership that we have with our outreach and communications team, who I think I've heard this board talk a lot about the branding that we do for kind of our bigger programs, like our, heavy duty vehicle replacement, our school bus programs. We've applied a similar approach. A lot of the materials that we pass out and that we work with community members on are actually co-developed with community. And so community members have really like an input and a sense of that outreach material, the flyers, but of course that has our branding. We are required to provide the CCI, the climate change investment branding from the state of California. And so we do constantly talk about that. But then also when we go out into community, and actually something I talked about at our community engagement discussion in November, we also are equipping community members with branding from the Air District. One example that I brought up last month was talking about our community air program ambassadors. And even though that's something that's not directly AB 617, it kind of goes to what Samir was talking about, which was working with grassroots communities, grassroots organizations to have district materials and have the kind of the capacity and knowledge to talk about these programs from the district and talk about the district's involvement and really have the materials to tell people and show people that it's kind of a district related program.
Good. All right. Member Robinson.
Like the outside world concept of case studies, right? I think that's nice because we can research and learn a lot from that instead of doing it abroad and then learning it that way. But the real point kind of is on the shoulders of Supervisor Pereira, in that I know this happened in my local community, and we're going to go back to tree planting for a second. Sometimes they'll plan for the now, but not for the future. What they did in this case, they didn't take in consideration some of the drought tolerance portion of it. And so what happened was the roots would then go towards the surface, and it caused a lot of buckling and so forth, and sidewalks just around. So a lot of our city plan was affected by this. So just one note, I'm sure Tree Fresno has this under control, but something to take a look at.
And maybe I'll just not only does Tree Fresno, but it's actually part of the requirements. They have to be drought tolerant trees that are able to survive in the valley.
Member Preciado.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mine is more, well, first of all, I would like to commend you for the presentation, a lot of information and a lot of good work with 617. But that's the comment that I have, or maybe suggestion, is that I know that when Prop 617 began, it wasn't really up to the governing board or the San Joaquin Valley Air District to designate those communities. It was more carved, right? And it was a process. And I know that in order to continue with adding more communities every year or every 2 years, funding is critical, and that kind of funding is not available to cover all those rural areas. But I believe that the experience that the district has gained with implementing those and working with those communities, engaging those communities, should continue, even taking those experiences and engaging those communities to other areas in the Central Valley, probably with less funding, not necessarily the same amount that 617 is providing to those areas. But I think like these calendars, they're really opening the youth, the parents, as they get engaged and see their children, kind of how we can reduce pollution. If those experiences from Shafter, Irving, or Stockton can be taken to other areas, and maybe with less funding, but continue with those experiences and tradition, I think we can do a lot more if that's in that off. And the last, well, actually, are there any cities or communities for next year or a couple of years?
First of all, Mayor, I just want to say what you just described is exactly, we agree completely, and it's exactly what the staff are working on and have been working on. So just rest assured, that the goal of the community engagement efforts that we have is to support all of the Valley communities that have concerns and opportunities, and that's absolutely the vision of what we have. And I think there's already many examples of that. And in fact, many examples in other communities, non-AB 617 communities, where the piloting is actually going on as well. Jess mentioned the COPPA program is one example. That's not an AB 617 program, but it's working in many communities. And actually, we want to translate that into other communities now. So the community engagement is much broader than the AB 617 program. One last part, your last question, Jess kind of alluded to this, but I want to be a little bit more expansive on the response. As the AB 617 program progresses, we don't think that there's going to be many, if any more official, kind of CARB selected communities. And that's something that I think will continue to evolve. We're not 100% sure about exactly how that's going to materialize. What we do know, though, is that there are many other communities that are interested in the air quality conversation and bringing resources. There are communities that have other grants from CARB. They're called community assistance grants or CAG grants. Those have been provided. Many of them are in the Valley. So we're interfacing with those organizations. We're interfacing with other organizations, and all with the goal that you mentioned. I do think that the piloting, I'll just use that term for a moment, of these originally selected communities, I think the next phase of this is how do we just make sure we work closely with all communities, especially those that have concerns and where there's opportunities. That's really where I think the overall, community engagement program is moving statewide, but we've already been moving in that direction. So,
Vice Chair Lewis.
Just one last comment. I know that in our community, we have some electronic LED boards up for advertisement. So I'm going to check with our city when these events come up to see if we can get free advertisement from one government agency to another. And we also have a local owner of a very large LED board as you come in from the west into Los Banos, and maybe see if that person would like to cooperate and help us out as well. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, seeing no more comments, we'll go out to the public.
Are there any public comments on this item in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Are there any public comments in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? I do see a few coming up to the podium.
Is your speaker on? I want to make sure.
The red light
There
is
you
on.
go. I hear you.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
I've been involved with this program from its inception, and the beauty of it is community driven. The community knows what's affecting itself regarding the pollutants that they are experiencing. And I'm quite pleased to see how this program has progressed. The greening project, the trees, et cetera, that's a very important introduction, and the concerns of the appropriate trees. And I know that Tree Fresno knows the types of trees that are best to be included in this program. And the air purifiers, that is extremely important, especially in an area where I am very privileged in living in a sealed house with good air conditioning, central air, and I am able to control the air within my home with the use of MERV 13 HVAC filters and air purifiers in my house. And that is a very, very important program. Now, Clovis Unified School District has some remarkable air purifiers in each classroom. I know this because I go to the adult school, and they have a large HVAC air purifiers that do a remarkable job. My question is, are there permanent monitors in all 4 of these locations so that the air quality is consistently observed, reported, and followed to see the effect of the progress in the 4 communities? I'd like to see that, and I have said this all along from the beginning of AB 617, those areas should have permanent monitors so that the reporting is consistent. Thank you. I really, I'm so happy that this is going as well as it is for the sake of those who live in those communities. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Janet?
Good morning, Manual Community Safe Farmers League. First, I want to take on the 617 for the low dust harvesters, the continual support for agriculture in those communities. Many jobs are at stake in those rural communities with agriculture. So having those funds be used to help with that and looking at other means of harvesting equipment down the road that we can even do better. So I want to thank the staff and the board for allowing those funds to be used from 617. Second question, and this is a question I always bring up because of our rural communities, and that is the private schools. The schools that aren't funded by the state or by the federal government, but do we provide, and can we, or do we provide those filters and those type of programs for those children? Either it's from daycare programs that are in the private schools, like the one just outside of Sanger, California, that was built, a school by private funds from kindergarten to 8th grade. Are those facilities eligible for those funds? And I know I continually hear that, but it's kids, it's children, and it shouldn't make a difference what school they're in or whatever. It's children. So that's my second question. The third one absolutely has been discussed: tree maintenance. Caltrans is the biggest failure of maintenance on our freeways. You look at the 41 and it's a complete war zone. It's the most ugliest freeway in the round, the 99 and many other areas, even in Hanford off of going the 198 and you're going toward the I-5. I look at those freeways and those maintenance of those trees have been destroyed by the homeless from fires and everything else. But when we plant trees in communities, they also should be held to the same requirements as farmers, and that is to maintain the pest problem. The worst one is crepe myrtles. I've had friends call me and tell me on the Clovis run, when the crepe myrtles are, excuse me, that are blooming, heavy with aphid. And there's no maintenance of that. There's no putting down systemics or whatever, because we got to make it totally friendly, but that's fine. But you're going to allow the disease and that to take place. So I think in all these tree plantings, even Tree Fresno has failed, is to maintain the trees so that they grow, and they maintain the pruning and the harvesting and how the canopy looks. When I look at the trees and the canopy is 20 times the size and a little tiny trunk, and then it breaks and it sits there for 2 or 3 weeks. So that's my total concern about the tree planting is we got to have a maintenance program and treat them like the way the farmers have to protect their trees. So again, I want to thank the district for the program, but private schools need to be thought of in daycares as well. Thank you.
Do we have any further comments in Fresno? Seeing none in person, we do have online Bianca Santoyo.
Morning, Bianca.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for giving me the space. I wanted to thank Jessica and her team here in Kern County. I'm part of the AB 617 for Shafter and also co-lead for Arvin and Lamont. And I've seen the progress that the Air District has done in the area, especially in the Shafter community, where we're able to reallocate funding and prioritize for community's health. I think it's important to see that community comes first in these type of projects, and the voices from our communities are being uplifted. I do appreciate that this year we were able to have more on one-on-ones with our community leaders and prioritize a lot of these efforts that in the past were held back, but at the same time were uplifted from the Air District. So I do want to say thank you for the Air District team in working with our community base. I do work hands-on with the community base, and they do see the challenges that happen at the beginning, and now towards the end we are seeing a difference, especially with the green vegetative barriers, how companies are actually putting their piece in this whole AB 617. They did get machineries, nut harvesters right at the beginning, but they're able to work with us in making these reductions a little bit better for our communities and our community's health. For the daycares, I do see the benefits for the daycares getting air filters because they're sensitive receptors. They're the forgotten ones. And including private sectors are very important. We do have some charter schools in the area that are not public schools, but there are charter schools that are going to be benefiting in these type of projects. So I'm very excited to see these projects coming forward and community members seeing them in person and in hand, and the changes that are happening. It's tremendous, and the AB 617 is not going to finish right now. There's a lot of work to be done, and we're grateful that we're working with Jessica and her team to make this possible. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Bianca.
Thank you. It does appear we have somebody in Fresno at the podium, and then we'll go back to another online comment waiting.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mona Nyanduro Cummings, and I am the CEO of Tree Fresno. And I just wanted to express my gratitude to the AB 617 program for the opportunity to provide urban greening funding for the AB 617 area of South Central Fresno. I've been CEO of Tree Fresno for the last 5 years, and this organization will turn 40 next year. We've learned a lot over the years. I am very appreciative of our community that is concerned about how we plant trees, how we partner in the community. And I want to assure you that we follow the International Society of Arborists principles of right tree, right place. We think about the power lines. We think about the care and maintenance. Tree Fresno focuses on the planting of new trees. So that partnership with the property owner, whether that's a school district or whether that's an individual business within AB 617, a nonprofit, a public agency like Caltrans. So during the duration of the grant itself, for example, this one, we would provide quarterly care along with our partners so that they understand what they are responsible for for the decades into the future. So the great thing about, for example, we do have a relationship with Caltrans in District 6, and they're very supportive of working together with us. You'll see the areas where we've planted together. You'll see better designated irrigation for drought tolerant trees, large canopy trees. You'll see the efforts are more there. And we're very proud of that. We believe that by partnering and engaging volunteers in the planting of trees, that's the beautiful thing that I want to point out with this programming is planting trees is something that the community wants to do. So whether it's a residential area, residents want to get involved in tree planting, people who work with schools, et cetera. So this is our opportunity to make the world a better place, to make the air quality better, and people can put their hands on it and feel like that they're part of it. So I just wanted, again, to express our thankfulness. We're a very small organization. We have 2 full-time people. So we get things done because of our partnerships in the community, and empowering other people to help us to be able to be effective in managing and be having successful outcomes for our grants. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mona.
Okay, I have one online comment, Thomas Menz.
Welcome, Thomas.
Good morning to you all. Thomas Menz here. I live in Fresno County and somewhat to the east of the 617 area in South Fresno. And in glancing through the annual report, I notice you have a comparison of the first quarter PM2.5 levels at the various monitors, and a very helpful comparison to the official regulatory monitors at Garland, Pacific College, Fresno Foundry, and Clovis. And but I don't notice any comparison for the other 3 quarters of the year. I was wondering why, well, you don't offer an annual comparison of PM2.5 levels relative to the official monitors for each of the sites in the 617 area. And perhaps most crucially, I was wondering why a comparison isn't offered for the 4 months of the residential wood burning curtailment period, the 4 months of November through February. I was wondering if staff might provide me, if I reached out to you, Jessica, could you provide me those averages for each of the years of monitoring, as described, an annual comparison and a monthly or for the 4-month wood burning season? Would that be possible?
Thomas, just finish your statement. We'll answer the questions afterwards.
All right, that's all I have.
Right, thank you very much.
Okay, there are no further online comments.
Okay, I have 3 questions written down. The monitoring within the 617 communities, private schools, are they eligible? And then Thomas's request.
Yeah, I think we can co-respond here on these. I'll start with the private school issue that Manuel raised, which is something that we've been looking into for some time, because the core issue there is that there's a constitutional issue with using public funds in private schools. And so this is an issue that's come up. This goes back many years. We looked at this with CARB on there's a lower emission school bus program. That was one of the big initial questions around this, and worked our way up to the head of the state essentially to try to figure out how can we actually get some funding there. And there's actually a fundamental issue there in the Constitution, but it is something that we continue to see if there's other opportunities for it. Maybe business partners, for example, in getting involved in air quality issues can work with some of the schools, and we do have those types of connections at times, or those types of opportunities come up. So that's a commitment to keep looking at that issue. But again, there is a major problem there or challenge, I would say, with public funds. On the monitoring kind of questions that came up, the monitoring in these communities, that the monitoring will remain, for now. I think that is part of what we're working with the state on as we keep moving forward with the transition, from this first 5-year period and beyond. As you've heard from Jess, for example, the implementation of the CERT measures continues, the monitoring is continuing, the engagement is continuing. So that is part of the conversation there. And we'll keep reporting back to the board on that as that continues to move forward. So to answer that question, it will remain for now. And then I think on the information that Mr. Menz, or the question that Mr. Menz had, we're more than happy to connect with him. We had examples in this report of different, it's not meant to be a full technical report in terms of all the data that's been collected. For each community, we actually have quarterly, going back to the very beginning of air monitoring, we have quarterly reports that look at air monitoring across all the sites, and there's comparisons, and they're all posted publicly. We're happy to connect with him to see if that helps answer his questions on that. I appreciate the input.
Thank you very much. So there are 3 actions. This is an action item, and the most important is that we're reallocating money. And so I'll entertain a motion. If there's no more comments. Motion. Doctor. Roll call.
Mr. Couch,
Yes.
Ms. Escutia Brayton,
Aye.
Ms. Lewis.
Yes.
Mr. Mendez,
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner,
Yes.
Mr. Preciado,
Yes.
Mr. Reyna,
Yes.
Mr. Rickman,
Yes.
Mr. Robinson,
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs,
Yes.
Sheklian,
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen,
Yes.
Mr. Chiesa.
Yes.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Thank you very much. On to item 13. Approve up to 111,000 and some change in technology advancements program funding for zero emission transport refrigeration unit demonstration. Todd. And validation.
Very important part of it.
Yeah.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Todd Young, Director of Grants and Incentives here at the Air District. And just for a little bit of context on why we are bringing this potential project to you today, transport refrigeration units, or TRUs, are used to maintain the temperature of goods during freight transportation activities. According to the California Air Resources Board, nearly 80% of these TRUs that were operated in California were non-truck or trailer-mounted TRUs. And so despite progress in reducing emissions from TRUs, they remain a significant contributor to pollution, local health impacts, particularly in areas with major transportation corridors such as the San Joaquin Valley. There are many ongoing efforts statewide to develop strategies to reduce community exposure and local air pollution and help trucking fleets reduce reliance on these diesel technologies. As a matter of fact, CARB has promulgated the TRU regulation, which requires the integration of zero emission TRU technology beginning in 2023, and it's sort of phased in on an ongoing basis over the next several years. As part of that regulation, CARB released what they call a technology assessment in 2022. It describes several potential technologies that help reduce emissions from TRUs, as well as identifying the challenges, because zero emission TRUs, there are operational impacts, there are infrastructure requirements, there are economic considerations and operational constraints. Do they have enough battery power to last an entire duty cycle? So it's not without its challenges. The report further discusses some range extending technologies, which is similar to what we're talking about today, that may ease some of these challenges with battery electric TRUs, including regenerative braking and axle generation. And so that brings us to the technology demonstration project that we're talking about today. What we're proposing to do is partner with a company called Range Energy, as well as the South Coast Air Quality Management District and other partners, to demonstrate an innovative battery-powered TRU. This consists of a trailer that's equipped with an electrically operable TRU, an onboard energy storage system, or a battery pack, that will be towed by a trucking fleet's tractor. The power capacity will be analyzed and charging infrastructure will be installed at the fleet sites, both in the San Joaquin Valley and in the South Coast Air District. Range Energy is in discussion with a local produce delivery company located here in South Central Fresno, actually within the AB 617 community of South Central Fresno, and has identified some routes that really traverse the valley from Fresno down to Bakersfield. And so those are the proposed routes for this testing and validation project. And you can see that the map there shows the proposed routes. So there are three key components of this project. The first one is the range energy, what they call the electric powered trailer system, or EPTS. That includes an onboard battery and an e-axle. So essentially what we're doing is we're taking a trailer, we're installing this battery pack, and we're installing this e-axle. This e-axle does a couple of different things. It provides motive power so that it basically covers its own weight. It carries its own weight. So what that does, if it's being towed by a diesel tractor, it can help reduce emissions by reduced fuel usage because it's actually pushing the tractor along. And in an all-electric configuration where this is being towed by an electric truck, it can substantially increase the range. And then the other thing that it does is obviously it powers the electric TRU. So you put an electric TRU in combination with this trailer, and it can power that TRU for a substantial duty cycle. And again, that's what we're trying to assess with this project is, does that really work? And does it meet the operational requirements of the fleets that'll be using it? The other two components of the project is what you can see there is the Thermo King hybrid electric TRU. It does allow that this TRU will operate on diesel, but it also allows it to operate on fully electric power. You can plug this thing in when you're docked or when you're loading, or when you're at your home base. You can plug it in and recharge, and it'll also recharge on the way using this EPTS. And then the third is the charging infrastructure itself. And again, this charging infrastructure will be installed at the Fresno location of the produce company that we're proposing to partner with. So just in terms of the project timeline and deliverables, it's about a 3-month process we're anticipating, and provided board approval today, we will immediately get started on the contracting and next steps in this process. The South Coast is similarly taking this project to their board in the next couple of months. And so we hope to, once both agencies are on board, move this process along fairly quickly. And in terms of some of the deliverables, it's analysis of all the fleet operations and assessment of the physical space and requirements that are necessary for the infrastructure, installing the EVSE or the charging infrastructure at the sites, a detailed route selection and analysis. A lot of that has already happened. They've done a lot of work to analyze the potential routes for this project already. And we're going to analyze the zero emission operation of the TRU. So it can, can it perform in that duty cycle that we really need it to? So, that's going to be a key to this, using the onboard battery. We're going to look at the regen capability because like an electric vehicle or a hybrid vehicle now, during braking, you can recoup some of that energy that's lost through battery regen. This trailer has that similar technology, which would allow, again, to extend the range of that trailer system. You can generate energy using the axle integrated generator and tractor power. So if your batteries do get low, you can actually reverse that flow and recharge the batteries using the tractor power and the regen from that what they call that e-axle that's included in the trailer. And then tracking of the energy consumption, the energy generation, all of that good stuff. What we really want to do is compare how this, how does this compare to a traditional trailer, a traditional setup, a traditional diesel powered TRU. So it's really going to be looking at fuel usage before and after, and energy consumption, and more importantly, the emissions, the emission reduction capability of this process. We're going to be looking at a detailed breakdown of the operational usage, including the uptime, if there's any issues, downtime, how long it stays at the dock, and what the charging capacity and capabilities are of this process. And an economic analysis that really shows, what's the impact? What are your savings? What are your savings in terms of fuel? What are you using in terms of energy consumption, those sorts of things. So looking at that end-to-end energy consumption and total cost of ownership. And then at the end, we're going to develop some media that summarizes the results. And we're going to educate audiences as to the results of this process. Particularly, we want to focus on the EJ communities that may be impacted by freight movement throughout the valley. We're considering and talking with specific outreach, for instance, in the Fresno AB 617 community, given that the company that we're proposing to partner with is located in the AB 617 community. That may look, we may show up at an AB 617 meeting in South Central Fresno and present the findings of this and present the impact and what's available in terms of utilizing this technology in the future. So with that, you have a detailed project budget in your packet, but just these are some highlights of it. It's about a $741,000 project. It does not include the $965,000 that Range has already invested in actually building the trailer. You can see a picture of the trailer there on the screen. South Coast and San Joaquin would each contribute the $111,000. Range Energy, Thermo King, and Nuve, who is providing the charging infrastructure, will cover all of the remaining costs. Funding for this project is currently available in our Technology Advancement Program budget that was approved by the board, and it's included in the 24-25 budget, so there's no additional fiscal impact with this project. So with that, the recommendations are before you there. I won't read them, but I would, I'll pass it back to your board for questions and comments.
Thank you very much, Todd. My first question would be, why are just the two air districts contributing money? Do we have a different pot of money because of the critical of the South Coast, and there are more air districts in California? Wouldn't they all benefit equally?
Yeah, I think there definitely is an argument to be made. Yes, I think that the only thing I would probably offer there would be that just given our leadership roles between us and South Coast and our extreme non-attainment kind of areas, we're generally leaders when it comes to technology advancement type efforts.
That was just a political statement.
But it would be nice.
Nothing more. Yeah. Other questions for Todd? Dr. Sheriffs?
Thank you. What's going to be the fate of the charging infrastructure after the project?
It will remain. It will remain with
and who's going to be able to access it? And who's it going to be useful to? Who could it be useful to?
We are in discussions with a local produce company with routes similar to OK Produce. We just can't make that official yet because we haven't finalized the negotiations. But OK Produce is in the middle of a very large project to electrify a majority of their trucking fleet. And so this will be utilized to support that effort. It will be located on their property and will be used to support their ongoing effort to electrify their fleet.
Okay, great. I share our chair's concern. It'd be great if we had more participants, but we in the South Coast are the primary recipients of all the bad diesel air. So it doesn't seem inappropriate at all that we get involved in, a really remarkable opportunity to field test the technology, to help drive the technology, the innovation. I love the collaboration. I mean, it's great to collaborate with an air district rival, if you will, going together on this. I was thinking about it. Maybe the only thing that would improve on this, if there was a way to charbroil hamburgers.
That's it. Other questions? Seeing none, we'll go to the public.
Okay, are there any public comments in this item in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Any public comments in Bakersfield?
No public comments in Bakersfield.
Are there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on this item? Seeing none in person, we do have one online, Kevin Abernathy.
Welcome, Kevin.
Oh, Merry Christmas, everybody.
Just wanted to make a comment from the standpoint that totally support all this new emerging technology. Would caution folks to make sure that you have CHP and others engaged anytime you're looking at potentially additionally length that has to do with our bridge laws and GVW in the state can be very, very problematic. As one that has been converting over to natural gas trucks in the dairy sector, that we actually have the non-divisible FAST Act, and along with the state's increase in 2,000 pounds GVW for the extra fuel tanks. I can tell you the reality is I've got drivers that are consistently stopped at points of entry and scale houses, issued red tags, put out of service, and adding points on their record for having something different than what the CHP is normally used to seeing. So just caution, make sure you expand your group of partners, because these folks do not like anything that they don't know. And it's very, very problematic. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Kevin.
There's no further online comments.
Bring it back to the board for action.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Okay, I'll call for a roll. Mr. Couch?
Yes.
Ms. Escutia Braden?
Aye.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Mendez?
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Preciado?
Yes.
Mr. Reyna?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs?
Yes.
Ms. Sheklian?
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen?
Yes.
Mr. Chiesa?
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Thank you very much, Todd. Okay, we're going to move on to item 14, accept and appropriate $30 million in Volkswagen Mitigation Trust funding for the statewide incentive program for zero emission transit, school and shuttle bus replacements.
Good morning, Chair, members of the board. My name is Aaron Tarango. I'm a manager in the grant department, and I'd like to talk to you about this item this morning. Stop here. Let me go. Okay. The VW Mitigation Trust provided over $423 million for California to mitigate the excess NOx emissions caused by VW's use of illegal defeat devices in certain diesel vehicles. The trust provides funding for specified eligible actions focused mostly on scrap and replace type programs for heavy duty equipment, including on-road freight trucks, transit shuttle buses, school buses, forklifts, and port cargo handling equipment, commercial marine vessels, and freight switcher locomotives. CAR was designated as the lead agency to act on behalf of the state in implementing the California's trust allocation, the VW trust allocation. Based on the district's reputation for administering effective and efficient voluntary incentive programs, CARB sought the district's assistance to administer the $130 million in funding from the trust for the replacement of older, high-polluting transit, school, and shuttle buses with cleaner technology. South Coast AQMD and the Bay Area AQMD were also approached to administer the remaining categories, as mentioned above. In 2018, your board approved the district to serve as administrator of the statewide incentive program for zero emission transit, school, and shuttle buses. Since that time, the district has fully allocated the available project funding to eligible bus replacement projects throughout California. On October 9th, 2024, CARB staff met with the administering air districts to discuss priorities for allocating the earned interest from the trust. California's portion of the trust has accumulated over $40 million to date in earned interest. CARB highlighted the limited funding opportunities for transit and shuttle bus programs statewide and the substantial oversubscription of the district's administered program. Consequently, CARB allocated $30 million of the earned interest to the district to fund existing eligible transit and shuttle bus projects currently in the queue. The remaining $10 million in earned interest will be allocated to the South Coast AQMD to repower or replace switcher locomotives with zero emission technologies statewide. Next, this is just a little thing here, kind of what we've done to date. Following extensive outreach, statewide outreach, the district began accepting applications on October 21st, 2019. Since that date, the district has received over 1,571 applications for bus replacement projects. And you see the categories here. The majority of them were school buses, shuttle buses, then transit and then shuttle, as you see there. This is just a quick table showing kind of the funding allocations or funding maximum levels per bus project type. The battery electric transit bus, $180,000. The fuel cell transit bus, $400,000. School buses, $400,000, and the shuttle buses, $160,000. So that's what the trust will pay per category. Moving to the next slide here. As far as the bus category goes, here's where we currently stand now. What we funded to date, we funded 353 projects to date. 156 school buses, 36 shuttle buses, and 161 transit buses. That's listed as $122 million there. The other $8 million is currently being looked at and being allocated now to other projects. So we'll currently exhaust those funds. And out of the 353, 49 were funded in the San Joaquin Valley. So the next steps, after fully allocating the original available funding, the district still has more than 1,200 applications in the queue. With this additional funding, the district will provide funding to eligible applicants on a first come, first served basis throughout California until exhausted. Because of the substantial queue of applications, CARB has agreed that no additional outreach will be conducted and the district will not reopen the application process for new applications. Based on types of applications in the queue, the district estimates funding between 66 and 72 additional bus replacement projects. Let's move next to the last slide there. The recommendations, I'll kind of quickly highlight them here. Accept and appropriate the $30 million in the statewide funding for the Volkswagen Medication Trust to fund the incentive program for zero emission transit school and shuttle buses to operate throughout California. Approve the attached budget resolution and then authorize the executive director to make administrative changes necessary to ensure successful implementation of the program. That concludes the presentation I have for you. I'll be answering any questions.
I didn't hear. Did you say how many applications are in the queue?
Over 1,200.
Over 1,200.
Yes.
Okay. 70. Well, okay.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Questions for Aaron? Vice Chair?
Thank you. So of the 1,200 applications in the queue, I would assume that whatever funding we've received is going to be exhausted by the applicants already applying.
Correct. Yeah, we can only fund 66 to 72 buses with these additional funds. So yeah, it'll be
taken up
pretty fast.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, go to public comment.
Okay, are there any members of the public in Bakersfield that would like to comment on this item?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any public comment in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Are there any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on this item? Seeing no in person and none online.
Right, back to the board for action.
Motion to approve?
There's a second here. Call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Couch?
Yes.
Mrs. Scutia Brayton?
Aye.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Mendez?
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Preciado?
Aye.
Mr. Reyna?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs?
Yes.
Ms. Shucklian?
Aye.
Ms. Nguyen?
Yes.
Mr. Chiesa?
Yes.
Through the chair, motion passes.
Thanks, Aaron. It could be just something I've noticed, but it always seems as we get closer to lunch, there's fewer and fewer questions from the board. So let's change that. Let's discuss it. I'm just kidding. All right, we're going to move on to item number item 15, which is to accept and appropriate about $9 million in additional funding from the US EPA for the replacement of class 6 and 7 on-road trucks and zero emission units. Okay, the incomparable Brian is here, most important person.
Well, that was very humbling this morning. I didn't expect that. But my name is Brian Dodds, and I'm Grant Program Manager here at the Air Districts. And it's a pleasure to be here with you this morning. What a great meeting and way to wrap up the year. As your board is aware, significant financial resources are necessary to implement a successful incentive-based strategy, which is a key component in the district's approach to meeting our Valley air quality attainment goals. The district's robust and effective incentive programs are designed to address the needs of Valley residents and stakeholders and offer a wide variety of program options to reduce emissions. The district has worked closely with Valley partners to successfully advocate and compete for new clean air funding at the state and federal level. Over the years, our district has gained a reputation for administering successful and highly effective incentive programs. This was highlighted most recently in our audit by CARB, which praised the district for our efficiency and fiscal accountability. And these attributes are a key factor in bringing significantly increased incentive funding to the Valley. Recently, in April, EPA released their $1 billion solicitation under the Clean Heavy Duty Vehicles Grant Program. The solicitation requested ready-to-go projects for Class 6 or 7 zero-emission vehicles. District staff worked closely with a number of stakeholders to identify fleets who would be well-positioned to replace their existing in-use trucks with zero-emission alternatives. In July, the district submitted our proposal to EPA to replace 26 trucks located within the Valley, and that totaled about $9 million, $8.9 million in funding. In November, the district was notified by EPA that our proposal was selected for the full amount requested. Our project partners in this grant proposal include the City of Modesto, Mission Lennon, Fresno Unified School District, and the City of Ceres. The vehicles are expected to be used in a variety of applications, including construction and maintenance activities, as well as linen and food delivery. The vehicle range is anticipated to be between 100 and 200 miles, depending on the vehicle configuration and use. Project funds total $12.8 million, which includes partner funding as well as district funding, and an additional $558,000 for district administrative costs associated with program implementation. It's anticipated that trucks will be ordered by the middle of 2025, with delivery occurring later in 25 through 2026. And the emission reductions associated with this project are approximately 577 tons of criteria pollutant and greenhouse gas emission reductions. And with that, the recommendations are here on the slide before you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, any questions? I see Rosa smiling. 11 trucks in Modesto, huh? Dr. Sheriffs.
Thank you. Fascinating project. Great to help advance the technology. My branding question from earlier again, because again, the branding is one way of providing a multiplier effect to what's going on, because people see it out there. And so it's going to help motivate them to think about how they can do this, what opportunities there are for them potentially, and that the technology is out there and seems to be working for someone. So question again about how do we brand this to help promote that?
Yeah, just wanted to respond real quick to that. I'll speak globally to our grant program. We actually have an itemized, detailed branding policy for essentially for these types of things, and it's multifaceted. So it's everything from in our contracts with project partners, requiring them to actually brand the actual. So we have, like, for example, our stickers that they're required to put actually on the vehicles, on the equipment, whether it's a tractor, whether it's a truck. So there'd be that sort of visible branding, but it also relates to events and recognition, and we actually collectively work with them often to do ribbon cuttings and all that. But basically, it's everything from actually on the vehicle or equipment to more broadly, looking for opportunities to profile the project, and it's actually, it's something that we take very seriously. And so be kind of clear about that, just not just for specific projects, but also just kind of more broadly across the incentive programs. As we keep finding opportunities for doing that even more so, for example, like the Clean Air Equipment Showcase that was very well attended back in November, just another example of where we basically try to get that brand out, that message out in terms of the partnerships that we're doing. So rest assured, there will be branding on these vehicles as they get distributed, so that people do see that there's a public-private partnership, that it's a clean air vehicle. I think there's generally also manufacturer branding, so you can actually see that it's an electric vehicle. But on top of that, the public-private partnership involved is also a key element of that strategy.
Thank you very much. Member Mendez.
Yeah, do you have kind of like a unit cost on some of this equipment?
Yeah, it varies greatly depending on the application and the size of the truck. These for this project will range anywhere from about 275,000 to about 550,000. And each use and battery needs and things like that will impact the cost of the vehicle.
Okay. Well, I know it depends on what it is,
Yeah, so on the smaller side on this project, there's some step van for the city of Ceres. If at this Clean Air Vehicle Showcase, the city of Hanford had theirs out there, and that one's about $275,000. The larger pieces of equipment for the city of Modesto that'll be used in construction and utility type activities are $550,000.
no, it's just amazing how much more this stuff is than regular stuff. 3 times, even we're talking about the bus deal earlier. You can buy 3 buses for the same price you're going to buy that electric bus.
It's a large investment.
And then in some cases, if they're not, they almost have to be in like a regular route in a city in order to make it, on battery power, where like a bus, a rural school district can't even use that bus because it doesn't have long enough legs. I'm just saying that.
That's called a statement.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. Member Escutia Brayton.
Thank you, Chair Chiesa. On behalf of the city of Modesto, thank you profoundly for that support for these opportunity to replace these trucks. That's wonderful. Some of the funding does go to associated charging infrastructure. Can you talk a little bit more about what that might look like and how much funding dedication was allotted for that?
Sure. The 3 of the project partners have already the capacity within their existing charging infrastructure to support these vehicles. Mission Linen is the one project that is getting additional funding for infrastructure to the total amount of about $1.5 million for their infrastructure needs to support the construction and installation of the charging infrastructure necessary for those trucks. As I mentioned, the other partners have existing infrastructure that they've already invested in that will be utilized for this equipment.
Oh, okay. So
and that was
Go ahead.
based on just to add a little bit more context to that was based on their needs and what each project partner required and asked for as part of deploying these vehicles. So it was just based on the feedback that they provided to us as part of the proposal.
Okay, so our partners that articulated just the need for the trucks was one thing, but other partners said we have an opportunity for the trucks and we also want to enhance our infrastructure. And those that did and are receiving funding will dedicate to that.
That's correct.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll go out to the public.
Okay, thank you. Are there any public comments in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Any public comments in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Do we have any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? We do have one approaching the podium.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right. It says it's
I
red.
can hear it.
All right. My name is Wes with Kingsburg Truck Center. First of all, I want to say thank you to Janine and her team for helping write this grant with us. The advanced clean fleet rules that are coming out, vastly or greatly affect our business as a truck dealership, selling gas and diesel trucks over the last 20 years and having to now start to sell electric. If you kind of put the politics aside, a lot of these companies and school districts and cities are in this weird position where, to your point, electric vehicles are 300% more expensive than gas and diesel, yet they're forced to buy them and they don't have the funds to do it. So, and without these grants, it's not possible to do. The technology is getting better and better, and we've done lots of testing with these. And so we actually did a 60-day demo with Mission Linen, and it worked out pretty well. So, I just want to say I thank you guys for kind of putting the face to the names, and just want to say, I appreciate all your support.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Okay, do we have any other comments in person in Fresno? Seeing none and none online.
Back to the board, there are 3 recommendations.
I'll make a motion. Second.
There's a second. Buddy and Dr. Sheriff. Call the roll, please.
Okay. Mr. Couch?
Yes.
Ms. Escutia Braden?
Aye.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Mendez?
Yes.
Dr. Pacheco Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Preciado?
Yes.
Mr. Reyna?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Dr. Sheriffs?
Yes.
Ms. Shecklian?
Aye.
Ms. Wynn?
Yes.
Mr. Chiesa?
Aye.
Through the chair, motion passes.
All right, thank you, Brian. Okay, on to item 16, receive and file the 2024 annual report on the district's indirect source review program. Mark presenting.
All right. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Mark Montalongo, Program Manager, Policy and Government Affairs. This morning, I'm going to present to you on the district's 2024 ISR annual report. The district's indirect source review rule was the first in the nation rule on indirect sources. Indirect sources are development projects that attract new mobile source emissions, such as commuting truck fleets and off-road equipment from construction activities. Implementation of the ISR rule began in 2006. The goal of this rule is to mitigate growth in emissions of NOx and PM10 from development projects, both construction-related and ongoing operational-related emissions, the bulk of which are from mobile sources. The rule promotes the use of clean air design features, but if required reductions are not achieved through these on-site measures, developers are subject to off-site fees for the remaining amounts of emission reductions required. For these reasons, on-site measures are definitely preferred over off-site fees. All off-site mitigation fees collected by the district are used to fund clean air emission reduction projects in the valley. This slide contains a summary of the ISR rule applicability criteria. One applicability mechanism is based on the land use approval process from public agencies, along with project sizes. If the approval process with the public agency is discretionary, the thresholds identified on the slide under the first bullet are what's used to determine if the project is subject to the rule. For example, a development project with 50 or more residential units or a warehouse 25,000 square feet or more would be subject to ISR. Another applicability mechanism is for large projects. For these, if the project exceeds certain size thresholds, the project is subject to ISR, regardless of the public agency's process. This applicability mechanism was added in a 2017 rule amendment to the rule. And there's also a third applicability criteria under the rule, which is for transportation and transit related projects. The rule breaks down project emissions into 2 categories, construction emissions and operational related emissions, with reduction requirements for each category. For emissions related to construction, which focus on tailpipe emissions from off-road equipment, the requirements are to reduce NOx and PM10 by 20% and 45% respectively when compared to the California fleet average for the same type of equipment. For operational emissions, which are based on a 10-year period, the rule requires reductions of NOx and PM10 emissions by 33.3% and 50% respectively when compared to the unmitigated emissions. As mentioned, emission reductions through project clean air design elements are a key part of the ISR program. Through the application process, the district provides a list of air quality improvement measures that developers can implement to reduce emissions from the project site. These air quality improvement measures are continually reviewed to ensure they reflect the latest technologies and practices. Since the majority of emissions from development projects are from mobile sources, much of which is on utilizing clean construction equipment, clean operating fleets, and overall reducing vehicle miles traveled. Developers also implement other measures, such as those related to energy efficiencies and zero emission infrastructure. Solar panel systems and electric vehicle charging stations are two such examples. The benefits to implementing on-site clean air measures results in emission reductions achieved immediately and are permanent. Those reductions directly benefit the local community and reduces or eliminates the need for developers to pay off-site mitigation fees. After all the on-site clean air measures are identified and taken into account, developers are subject to mitigation fees to cover the remaining emission reduction requirements under the rule. These funds received are reinvested into the valley through the district's grant and incentives programs to reduce air pollution in the valley, which consist of electrification or replace diesel-powered ag tractors and irrigation pump engines, replacing old trucks with new low-emission trucks, replacing older and higher polluting school buses. And there's a couple more examples there on this slide. As far as this year's activities, we received 263 ISR applications. Through the assessment of these applications, the emission reductions total over 2,100 tons from the use of on-site clean air project design elements and over 2,000 tons from off-site mitigation fees. During this reporting period, we collected $4.9 million, 3.5 million of which are ISR funds and 1.4 million of which are VERA funds. Since 2006, the district has taken numerous measures to outreach and assist with ISR compliance. The district has held public workshops and outreach meetings with numerous cities and counties and school districts, held trainings on various specifics of the ISR program, and held follow-up educational workshops with agencies and stakeholders since ISR began in 2006. The district also maintains a Rule 9510 small business assistance line, which assists developers and public agencies on a daily basis, while also requiring Rule 9510 project information on district internal processes such as dust control and construction notification. In addition, throughout our California Environmental Quality Act work as a commenting agency on development projects, we send out hundreds of letters per year to agencies in the Valley to inform them and the developer of ISR applicability, its requirements, and available resources on a project-by-project basis. Since initial implementation began in 2006, over 22,000 tons of emissions have been reduced via on-site clean air design elements that directly benefit local communities. And throughout off-site mitigation fees, over $180 million has been invested in over 16,000 tons, or over 16,000 clean air projects overall, which has resulted in 20,000 tons of total emission reductions in the Valley. As with any of our programs, the district is continuously seeking to further enhance the ISR rule and requirements in light of new technologies and federal, state, and local regulatory environment surrounding mobile source emissions and indirect sources. Along those lines, South Coast AQMD has adopted a warehouse rule which focuses on mobile source emissions from warehouses greater than 100,000 square feet. The South Coast approach with their rule is similar to the district's ISR rule in that it requires clean air design elements to reduce NOx and particulate emissions, and then a mitigation fee payment as needed to achieve the remaining rule requirements. It differs in a couple of ways. For example, the district's ISR rule applies to new construction and operational emissions from various development types. For example, residential, commercial, warehouses, and other non-residential developments. Additionally, South Coast AQMD's rule does not require project-specific emission reductions, but instead relies on a programmatic menu-based approach. As such, the district continues to monitor early implementation and implementation of South Coast's Rule 2305. In the spirit of the ongoing evaluation of Rule 9510 during this last legislative session, Assembly Bill 98 Carrillo-Reyes was signed into law, which prescribes various statewide warehouse design and building standards for any proposed new or expanded warehouse development, such as solar, setback and buffer requirements, signage, light, medium, heavy duty vehicle charging readiness, just to name a few. The district continues to evaluate the ISR program as the state's mobile source regulations continue to drive new technology and emission reductions. Over the years, the district has had significant success achieving emission reductions under ISR, including reductions achieved through offsite mitigation fees as described earlier. Since 2008, the collection rate to mitigate emissions has been $9,350 per ton of NOx and $9,011 per ton for PM10. And that's still the same rate today. The evaluation of these fees will be critical in ensuring the dollars collected by the district in the future are sufficient to achieve and administer the required emission reductions under ISR. In addition, the cost of emission reductions through the funding of clean air projects has been steadily on the rise, and as more clean alternative technologies become available, the cost effectiveness is expected to continue to increase. Over the last 3 years, the cost effectiveness for ISR has been $22,774 per ton, and year-to-date cost effectiveness for ISR is approximately $38,000 per ton. As a point of reference, cost effectiveness for Carl Moyer was recently increased by CARB to $60,000 per ton for conventional diesel to diesel replacement and $120,000 per ton for diesel to zero emission replacement projects. To ensure the dollars collected by the district are sufficient to achieve and administer the required emission reductions under ISR, the district plans to reevaluate fees in 2025 through the process specified in the rule. This concludes my presentation this morning, and I'll turn it back to the board for question and comment. Thank you.
Very much. Most efficient, is this the most efficient reduction program? Based on, I mean, by a long shot.
As you can see, it's a very well-established program and certainly very, very cost-effective to date.
Dr. Pacheco-Warner.
Thank you so much. Just a couple of things. I really want to commend the district in terms of its follow through on this rule and really just not only not taking their foot off the pedal in terms of these reductions, but also being forward looking as land use does change in our valley. I think that in terms of anyone interested in further innovation in this area also needs to consider engagement on the energy use side, because there is, that infrastructure limit to what we can do in the valley, not only on actual, ability to connect, but the cost as well. And I am not auditioning to be on the PUC, but it is an important aspect of engagement that I think is very related to this as we look ahead, and needs to be mentioned as a critical engagement opportunity in the valley for folks interested in the valley and interested in clean air in the valley. I do have a question in terms of the strategies as you start observing what's happening in South Coast, but also more in terms of innovations in our program. One of the questions I have is what do you see as the most often used strategies that projects select to use as mitigation strategies? And then just a more broader thing I'll ask after that. Yeah.
So the most common that I do see is on the construction side with utilizing cleaner construction equipment to construct their projects. I think on the operational side, it's a variety of things. It could be solar, and start installing charging stations for light duty vehicles. And then also on the operational side, kind of like yard goats that are used on site to, kind of move things around on project sites. Those are some of the most common ones that I see, but it kind of varies from project to project.
That's really helpful. Thank you. And I think added context to the board, as they mentioned the South Coast one of the things that I did ask CARB to look into and to be engaged more broadly with EPA, because it's of national implication in terms of when we say which one is more stringent, or all of that. Is I did ask CARB to be engaged with EPA on actually some guidance on that, because it's not just for CARB to say, Valley, you have to do exactly what South Coast is doing, when there are so many factors to consider, energy being one of them, right? And infrastructure being one of them. So I think I just wanted to mention that, and also wonder if in your work as staff with EPA and the SIP and the update to the working on the 9 microgram plan, if any of those conversations have surfaced yet in terms of the warehouse. And
Maybe a quick response, Mr. Chair, to that. Yeah, I think first, I think that's great. That the more engagement, I think the better. Just a little bit on the role of this rule in the context of the Clean Air Act and implementation. The ISR program is actually unique in the Clean Air Act in that under federal law, there's no compulsion to do an ISR program. And so this board, back in 2006, implemented the program, and it took about over 15 years for another region to actually finally put another program into place, and it's very limited in terms of its scope compared to what our rule does. And so EPA's role in this, if they have any technical input, it's always welcomed. But from like an attainment strategy perspective and from a federal approvability perspective, this is not ever an approvability issue, because it's a voluntary program under the Clean Air Act. It's not one that would ever be a requirement under the Clean Air Act, and it's very unique in that role. And so I think just want to kind of first state that, because I think it's really important to recognize the leadership that the board has played in putting it in place in the first place, and then also the leadership that we continue to play in trying to keep examining it. And this is not a top driven, from EPA kind of an approach. This is at the local level, really just trying to continue to mitigate in a world that's changing very fast. And that's the second point I want to make, that when the board adopted this back in 2006, that was before the state's truck and bus regulation that is already achieved an over 90% reduction in heavy duty truck emissions. That was before advanced clean trucks, advanced clean fleets, these things that you've been dealing with here with your role on the California Air Resources Board. And so as we think about to the future, as I think you're kind of asking about here, it's really important, I think to recognize that, what those mobile source strategies do, and really what I keep hearing from the public, and you heard that earlier, even with the discussion around the electric trucks and the cost and the feasibility, is that the state is really pushing the envelope right now when it comes to electrification capacity. You mentioned the grid capacity. There's facilities that are basically, they don't have power to build, whether it's a warehouse or whatever it might be. So they're looking to bring in actually combustion to power their facility, to then maybe put in chargers to charge vehicles, but then actually having, internal combustion engines powerize their facility. So there's some really, the bigger point there being that the state is really pushing the envelope on the transition to mobile sources. So what role does this rule play to continue to encourage, some of the advanced technology, further mitigation? Because as Mark mentioned, you mitigate no matter what's going on. It's a further mitigation on top of all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, things have evolved quite a bit over the years in terms of where the mobile source control program is, what's feasible, what's not feasible. And so I think those conversations are more than welcome with CARB, to help us brainstorm that into the future. CARB, who itself is, obviously, with the mobile source control program, already, I think, there's some, some interesting conversations that are happening around, where we really can go in terms of some of these technologies. So
thank you.
Any other questions? All right, public comment.
Okay, are there any public comments in Bakersfield?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any public comment in Modesto?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public in Fresno? See some coming up to the podium.
Manuel Cunha, East Farmers League. Yes, Dr. Pacheco Warner, you're 100% right on your first comment. The district's ISR rule is a rule that was done back way then, as you submitted. Samir, what we all worked on made sense. The South Coast has a lot of problems with their ISR rule, especially my shipping side, the warehousing side that deals with agricultural products and even refrigeration units of saying what you have to move that refrigeration unit. Excuse the expression, Mr. Chairman, insane. We don't have the infrastructure. I'm going to pick on one board member, Dr. Pacheco Warner, in her community, a packing house on Belmont and Academy was to be built. It was going to provide 187 jobs for the town of Delray and Sanger. In 2019, the builder received a letter from PG&E with the CEC well known. The California Air Resources Board received a letter from PG&E, and this district received the letter, believe also. Told the packer processor, you're not going to be able to build for 10 years. Our two substations in the area cannot handle the load. So here we're going to throw out a community, a rural community with jobs, great jobs, good jobs, agricultural products, which expands and expands from that packing house to the bins, the trucks, you name it. But ARB has failed tremendously to recognize the utility availability. The infrastructure is not there. The power is not there. And yet we have a letter that says it's going to take 10 years to build a packing house. That's insane. And here we're going to try to change the South Coast's ISR rule as a disaster compared. Yours is absolutely sensible to what you're trying and have been doing, Samir. But I'm greatly concerned because of that issue. We run a call on Monday with UC Riverside and Cal Poly with the California Resources Board doing a survey on agricultural needs of electrification that the CAC has requested. In that discussion, they talked about the 1 million trucks that are tier 4s in California. The estimated amount of power to charge all 1 million trucks, and this has been calculated and done, not acknowledged by ARB yet. I don't know why. It would take 20 Diablo Canyons to charge all of that 1 million trucks for 4 hours. 20 Diablo Canyons would never and is never going to happen in this state as long as all of us in whatever lifestyle. So again, ARB has not acknowledged that the utility is not there. The power isn't there. Yes, we had packers that used natural gas generators to run the facility because they can't get power in the town of Madera at the airport area. And we can name several more. So I'm hoping that in our discussions as a district, as a valley, as Dr. Pacheco Warner in your comment, we need to make sure that the word consumption and use is there. And if we don't have it, we need to make that very clear to ARB and EPA. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Manny.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? I do have one more coming up to the podium.
Hi, good morning, Valley Governing Board. My name is Natalie. I'm a policy associate with the Central California, Environmental Justice Network. I just wanted to highlight that even though the San Joaquin Valley ISR is really the first of its kind that was passed in the state of California, it fails to adequately quantify emissions reductions and implement meaningful mitigation measures that protect frontline disadvantaged communities, like in our AB 617 communities and in our rural communities. In the annual report, the Air District states that the ISR has achieved emissions reductions by requiring facilities to use clean air design elements. But in reviewing several facilities' compliance with the ISR, we noticed that many of them adopt really generalized non-emission reduction mitigation measures. For example, we noticed that a lot of the facilities we reviewed chose the following measures: improved walkability design, increased diversity, improved destination accessibility, increased transit accessibility, increased pedestrian network, and other generalized measures. These measures don't really account, even though they may be adopted with good intent, they really don't account for any direct emissions reductions from indirect sources, such as trucking operations and construction equipment. And I also just want to take a moment here and ask, how does the Air District implement and evaluate these measures that I just mentioned? If you actually go in the areas where a lot of these light industrial and heavy industrial projects have been built, I don't really see evidence of these measures being incorporated for the surrounding communities. Many of these communities still suffer from a lack of public transit, bus stops, unmaintained sidewalks, and damaged roads. And I just wanted to say thank you to Dr. Pacheco Warner for your question regarding the most often used mitigation measures. I think something that we would like to see is actually a numerical breakdown of what are the measures that are being used and adopted by these facilities in order to get a sense of which ones are being used more and which ones are being used less. And again, alluding to the annual report, it highlights a list of emissions reductions projects that have been funded by offsite fees. These offsite fees are paid when facilities are not able to mitigate emissions and thrown into a fund, as we know, to reduce NOx and PM10. Though these projects do provide some benefits, we're noticing that there's key information missing in the appendix. We do not see the unmitigated emissions that were approved for each project application and how the associated offsite project achieved the emission reductions that were paid for. The emissions reduced through offsite projects should be equal to the unmitigated emissions. Another thing I did want to emphasize was, the district really prides itself on the ISR being one of its kind. The report even states that the role is recognized as the benchmark or the best available control on direct sources of emissions. We know that multiple other air districts are working on ISR, and South Coast has even officially adopted the ISR into their SIP, and it was officially approved by the EPA. In the PM 2.5 plan that went before the board in July, the district included only 2 paragraphs of words attempting to analyze the rule. In that report, it states, the district will continue to evaluate potential opportunities for future enhancements of the district's rule, including reviewing the early implementation of the South Coast Warehouse ISR rule.
Can you wrap it up? Your time is up.
Yes, I noticed that you let other people speak.
I let them
past
go
the
3
time.
minutes and 15 seconds, and that's
Yes,
exactly
thank
where
you.
you are right
Okay,
now.
I'm
So,
almost done. Okay. And I asked, now that there is another ISR out there, the annual report really should include an analysis to show that their rule is the more stringent compared to other air districts. We know that the landscape of the valley is changing. We're seeing more warehouses and logistical developments. We need to see an ISR that consistently, transparently, and accurately records emission reductions in order to make sure that we're meeting the future annual PM 2.5 9 microgram standard on time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment? Seeing none in person, I have online Cynthia Pinto Cabrera.
welcome, Cynthia.
Hello, good morning. Cynthia Pinto Cabrera with the Central Valley Air Quality Coalition. I was having some internet trouble, so let me know if you can't hear me. But Cynthia with Central Valley Air Quality Coalition, I wanted to bring up some of the transparency issues with the ISR report. I think as Natalie highlighted,
Cynthia, we just lost you. We'll give her another shot to get back in. We're going to the next one.
Okay, she is still showing online, so let me just mute her for now. I have Natalie Delgado online. Okay, oh. Pa Lee online.
Hello, good morning, members of the board. This is Pahua from California Environmental Voters, Central Valley Regional organizer and also residents of our Valley's community. I'm here to raise concern about the ISR. While it is a step forward when passed in 2005 and updated in 2017, it's not really doing enough to protect the frontline communities who are most impacted by populations from warehouse logistical hubs and other developments. And when I look at the Air District report, I don't see transparency and just want to highlight Cynthia's point there as well. It lists funded emissions reduction project that doesn't show the unmitigated emissions approved for each project or how offsite projects are achieving reduction. This matter because emissions reduction should match the pollution these projects create. And lastly, the tools really used to calculate unmitigated emissions and reduction is unclear. Communities like mine are already burdened by pollution. We need accountability and real solutions. We don't want vague reports. We need the air district to ensure this rule truly protects the valley's most vulnerable. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, we'll try Cynthia again.
Right, Cynthia, you're back on.
On to Kevin Abernathy.
Back, Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As someone that painstakingly has worked through Rule 2201 in the ISR, as much as sometimes you dislike the process and the trigger point of 2 pounds per day, I will say that the district's NSR rule is certainly something that can be a pain, but at the same token is extremely effective. And I would recommend and highly support the board staying the course. You guys have done an outstanding job, and is someone that obviously that's been through the process of mitigating a project's emissions to zero, even when you first start off at triggering at 2 pounds per day. My recommendation to folks that don't understand the process before you make ridiculous comments that it's ineffective. Thank you.
Thank you.
The only one on left online is Cynthia.
We try her one more time.
We'll try one more time.
Can y'all hear me now? I had to reset some Wi-Fi.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, I think y'all heard the piece of transparency that I had mentioned at the beginning, but wanted to dive into a little bit further, given some of the discrepancies that we saw with the emissions reductions credit program, where some of the calculations were essentially wrong and overinflated and overvalued. We'd like to be able to see the indirect source reports highlight how you all are calculating emissions, and urging that this should be included in the report so that the public and any other interested stakeholder or parties are able to more effectively track where those emissions are coming from, especially given that we are significantly behind on the 1997 standard, which I'm really excited to hear that what Chair mentioned, that we're likely going to meet it, which is long overdue, given that we still have to meet the 12 microgram standard and now the more stringent 9 microgram standard that is going to be coming up here soon. Really like to see those calculations be demonstrated in this report so that we can more effectively track where shortfalls are, particularly when it comes to some of the warehouse developments that are popping up all over the San Joaquin Valley, with many, for example, a giant industrial warehouse park is being built in Stockton, plans in Fresno, they're popping up all over the San Joaquin Valley. So as these are coming up, we'd like to be able to see and track the exact calculations for those mitigation measures and where exactly they're coming from. So again, highlight transparency. Y'all committed to more transparency for the ERCs program, and urge you all to provide more transparency for the ISR program. This is an incredibly important role for meeting our clean air standards, our health standards. So really urge y'all moving forward to do that. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Cynthia.
Okay, there's no further online comments.
I just wanted to say that I do appreciate all the feedback provided, and we will continually look at opportunities for answering questions as best as we can in these reports. It definitely exceeds what the rule requires us to do. We try to provide, even more information, and keep trying to make it, better every year. So do definitely appreciate the public for their comments, and I'm happy to keep working with them on ideas and trying to be responsive to different ideas that came up today. Appreciate the feedback.
Thank you very much.
We need a motion to
We do
accept,
not.
or we don't.
There's no action necessary.
Very good.
Thank you for your, thank you, Mark. Okay, on to item 17, which is a verbal report on the California Air Resources Board. Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Yeah, thank you so much. We have been pretty busy. I won't bore you with all of the details. I just really want to say that this year has been I think I've never seen a year where the Valley is talked about so much, and a lot of the leaning on the expertise of our team as well for a variety of things. And so it's been really fun seeing our staff in Sacramento or commenting online, being asked by CARB staff to provide their expertise, and just really want to acknowledge the staff for that, because they are being sought after in terms of the innovation and how they're pushing the envelope. We did approve our spending plan for some of the incentives that we provide, which is hard when we went from huge budget to just, very comparatively speaking, a tiny budget this year to approve. However, I will say that the Valley will continue to be looked at in terms of a place to invest that money in. And I think that there is an opportunity moving forward for us to continue to use opportunities like our legislative platform to highlight the need for more funding in the state budget for things like Clean Cars for All, those types of vehicle replacement programs that are very critical to our communities, and that have proven to be effective. And by proven, I mean demonstrated by universities like UCLA that we are not only effective but make it count where in the communities that need it the most. So I will leave it there. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Pacheco Warner? All right, on to item 18, Executive Director report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick updates. First, I just wanted to acknowledge Dr. Pacheco Warner's work this last year on the CAR board. It's been she's being, I think, a little modest in terms of the level of just the number of meetings and tough items on their agenda this last year. I know it was definitely a big lift for her, and she very much, I think, communicated, a lot of the concerns that, she hears about here at the local level in terms of equity considerations and making sure that, we don't leave our rural communities behind as different things are being discussed. So I just want to acknowledge that on behalf of the staff here. And also want to thank you, Mr. Chair, for your service. I didn't quite get a chance to say that earlier in the way that we had set up the items, and just wanted to appreciate you on a personal level, and then on behalf of the entire team who's loved working with you in that role for 2 years now. You've been spearheading so many things for over 2 years now, working with us on everything from legislative to advocating, going to DC, and on the side, you've always been just a great mentor to me personally, and I thank you and just applaud you for just being a great chair on behalf of the entire region here. So thank you for that. And I also wanted to just mention, you probably saw in the news earlier this week that EPA did approve 2 of California's waivers for 2 of the mobile source measures, the advanced clean cars. That's a passenger vehicle rule that was passed here. That there's also analogous rules in some of the other states. There's also another rule for the it's called the omnibus, the heavy duty truck standards. So those 2 were approved by EPA. Just want to make sure that was flagged for the board, and I think there are still 6 remaining waivers that are still with EPA, and not sure what's going to happen with those. I also want to thank all of you for attending the November board study session and the Clean Air Equipment Showcase. That was a very positive meeting, a lot of great discussions. We had over 150 people at the showcase with all these different technologies, everything from ag to freight to other technologies. I mean, got some really good TV coverage and just really good collaborative sort of spirit came out of that. So I appreciate all of your work on that. And we just have the best board from my perspective in the world. And I want to acknowledge all of you here at the end of the year. As part of my closing comments here, just thank you all for all the work that you do. There's a little quick graphic I wanted to show you that I think exemplifies, what we call the Air Avengers team. So we had a recent symposium here and the staff had some fun with the theme of it was the Air Avengers and the work that we do to try to keep improving public health and fighting for the Valley's needs here. And just want to share that graphic with you in terms of you're all part of the Air Avengers and you lead the Air Avengers. So I want to wish you and your families just a wonderful holiday season and just closing out a really productive year. So thank you all very much.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Samir? All right, we'll move on to item.
I have one. Chairman, I have one.
Yeah, for Samir. Okay.
I just would like you to follow up with me on the waivers out of EPA and then any subsequent actions by CARB and what that will mean. Really, what that will mean. Period. I'll stop it there. Thank you.
Couch. Okay, now to governing board member comments. Dr. Pacheco Warner.
Yeah, I think that we had a really full meeting, but I think as we saw the inversion layer this last month, we really saw the challenge that we have ahead of us, in particular with the 9 microgram standard. And I think that as we continue to look for more opportunities, it's also important to, and I want to commend Jamie's team because I did see a lot of community engagement on that aspect, trying to educate folks on the public health impacts of that. So much more on that, but I did want to point that out. Thank you.
Very much. Member Lewis. Vice Chair Lewis.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I want to thank you, Manuel, for the gracious comment that you gave to me. It has been a pleasure working with you on some outside events regarding your organization. So thank you very much for the comment. And to the board members for giving me the opportunity to be vice chair. And to our chair, I only had to use the gavel one time while you were gone to bring order to the board.
That was on Buddy.
I wasn't going to say, but it was a good opportunity and I enjoyed it. And I just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a very prosperous and safe New Year. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Couch.
Chairman, I just want to compliment you on the job you did this year and underline and accentuate what Samir's words. I just appreciate your leadership a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, could I be a little gratuitous for a moment here and just because Supervisor Couch just ended on that last note and wanted to also just present this really nice plaque to you for your service as chair of the board. Have it on record, on tape, and and I'll bring it up to you and maybe we can have a little photo moment for you with all the board members here. But it states here, healthier living. Supervisor Vito Chiesa, Stanislaus County, with gratitude for your service as chairman from August 2022 to December 2024. So which is a little bit over 2 years actually. From the governing board of the San Joaquin Valley Unified Air Pollution Control District. So again, thank you and perhaps a round of applause again to close the meeting here.
So I think what we're gonna do is we're just gonna wait and then the board members will all go down there and take a picture together, if that's okay. Yeah, but we need to make sure we get a copy of the email to the Air Avengers. I think that's pretty funny. So if nothing else, then a few comments. You first touched on the study session. I find so much value in study sessions, deep dives, a little more comfortable situation where we can really have at each other a little bit more. It's always nice when you have more time available. To the board members, thank you for being so supportive of I'm around so many smart people all day long, and I learn every time I come to these meetings. I learn it's not just from staff, it's from board members and your own knowledge and from maybe it's a life experience, maybe it's because you're a medical doctor, but I find so much value in that, and it's made me a much better board member. To staff, you guys prop us up like no organization I've ever seen. Anything we ask for, it's almost instantaneous answers. So I so much appreciate it. And that's all the way through to the STAR employees today, that I haven't met or don't know. I know that they're just as helpful to me. To the public members, again, you keep us sharp. I love hearing from the public. I think that the value added is to this organization is that we're not always on the ground. We have some belief systems that might be biased towards ag. I'm a farmer, and it's nice to hear from the public who don't share my life experiences. So I appreciate that. And then lastly, I hope everyone has a very happy, merry, healthy, fun-filled, vacation. A couple of weeks. I didn't give a couple of weeks off, but Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to everyone. We do have a closed session.
We do. Thank you. Two closed session items, one regarding 3 potential lawsuits, and then the second item, public employee performance evaluation of the executive director, APCO, and the district council. On the latter, this latter item, we need public comment.
So are there any public comments in Bakersfield on the closed session item?
The performance
For the performance evaluation?
No public comment in Bakersfield.
Thank you. Any public comments in Modesto on the public employee performance evaluation?
No public comments in Modesto.
Thank you. Any members of the public in Fresno that would like to comment on that item? Seeing none and none online.
Okay, thank you. And as to the first item, we do expect to report out.
All right. Nothing else for the good of the order. We'll adjourn to closed session.
board unanimously approved of the district intervening in 3 cases. The first case, Little Manila Rising et al. Versus US EPA in the US District Court, Northern District of California, case number 324 CV 07768. Second case, Little Manila Rising versus US EPA Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, case number 246990. These 2 cases were challenges to the EPA's approval of the district's and CARB's request for a 1-year extension of attainment deadline for the 1997 PM 2.5 standards. And the third case, Committee for a Better Arvin versus US EPA Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, case number 247270. This was a challenge to the EPA's approval of the district and CARB's submission of the 1997, 2006, 2012 PM 2.5 standards. Thank you.